at 3411 Lake Tahoe Boulevard. And he'll be with us via Zoom. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Cardenas,
Here.
Councilmember Costa Junior,
Here.
Councilmember Robles,
Present.
Councilmember Ramirez,
Virtually here.
excuse me, Mayor Julian.
Here. We have a quorum. Will you please stand with me and join me for the pledge of allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic,
which is one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is agenda review. At this time, we look at the staff and the city council, look at the agenda to see if we want to move things around. Staff or council, is there any wish to move the agenda around?
I'm good.
Nothing, Antonio?
Negative.
All right, we'll go to item 4, North Santa Barbara County, PRESA, Food Reliance, Equity, Sustainability, and Action. Please come up. Who's your, do you have many spokespeople? Okay. All right. I guess we have their, okay. Welcome.
Right here?
Yes,
Yeah, so we have a couple people present. but-
sure. If you want to join them up there, it's fine.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Alan Diaz Correa. I am the Climate Justice Associate for the Community Environmental Council. And I'm also one of the coordinators and organizers of PRESA. We are a North County focused food advocacy group. And so we have a coalition of food advocates, food system workers, food bank workers as well. And one of the organizations, kind of see if this works here. Get the folder.
See here. Let's try this.
There it is.
Apologies. So like I said, we're food advocates based focus here in North County, and one of our initiatives is for food insecure families and low income families, particularly CalFresh families, to have access to use those dollars for local farmers and growers. Like you can see, we are a variety of nonprofits, community groups, and community leaders. And so we are really here to just donate our time, donate our expertise, and find, common workable actions and solutions. So since we got started in 2020, we have actually gotten a lot of community support. We've had over 1,000 hours volunteered. We've also been able to raise over $30,000 in funding. Recently, we actually submitted a grant to the Fund for Santa Barbara. This could potentially support our meetings and our meeting interpretation for 2023. Rooted Language Services has been providing the interpretation. So every monthly meeting has bilingual English and Spanish interpretation. So community members can fully participate. And because of Rooted Language Services, we actually held a language justice training with best practices last year. And so several of the groups that you saw in the earlier slides learned how to better implement these language justice practices. One of the biggest reasons of why we're here is to talk about CalFresh and the need and impact of this state program. And so first I want to introduce Dennis Tibby. He works for the Department of Social Services and has really been impactful to provide this data and expertise from the county. So I'll leave it to Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay. So 1 in 5 children in Santa Barbara County are living below the federal poverty level, and that puts them at increased risk of food insecurity and hunger. And we know that hunger hurts us all. So researchers have linked it to chronic physical health problems, mental health problems, and for children, reduced academic performance and life-threatening earnings. And CalFresh fights hunger. So about 20,000 households in our county receive CalFresh food aid. It's the most powerful tool that we have against hunger. It's federally funded, county ministered, and helps low-income households afford food. A lot of people know it as SNAP or food stamps, although there are no stamps involved. Participants get their benefits monthly on a card, EBT card, they call it, electronic benefit transfer, which works like a debit card to buy food at participating supermarkets, neighborhood stores, and farmers markets. Majority of recipients are children, working adults, disabled, or elderly. And CalFresh boosts our economy. So those benefits are spent at local grocery stores and farmers markets, generating $1.79 in local economic activity for every dollar in benefits. And the federal government pays 100% of those benefits. There are benefits to locally grown food, all kinds of benefits, including taste and health and environment and more money staying local. So it's great if you can spend those benefits at a farmer's market. So as we said, 20,000 low-income households in the county, actually it's quite a bit more now, closer to 28,000 are getting CalFresh food aid with benefits on that EBT card, that electronic benefit transfer card, works like a debit card. And at farmers markets that accept it, you can just take your EBT card to the market manager's booth and swipe it, and they'll exchange it for tokens that you can spend at the market. On top of that, there's a program called Market Match, which allows farmers markets and to double the value of CalFresh benefits to a daily limit. So that makes locally grown food, instead of being more expensive, cheaper than the supermarket. You get better food for less money. And then actually, to give you an idea of the impact of that on a local farmers market, the Santa Barbara Certified Farmers Market Association operates the farmers markets in Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, Montecito, Goleta, and Solvang. And when they started accepting that EBT card, they got a nice boost to their bottom line. That's what you're seeing in the green there, averaging about 2,000 a month total in CalFresh EBT transactions. After they added the Market Match program, you can see the segments in orange. That's how much more they added on top of that. So we're not saying that these dollar amounts would apply to a single local market, but you can see sort of the trend of the impact, how much more business that generates at a local farmers market. Okay. Can you go back to the other one? Yeah. Okay. So I apologize because this is a new presentation in a different order than the old presentation. There are more CalFresh households in North County than anywhere else. So this is where the largest plurality of CalFresh recipients live. And it's also where a lot of food's grown. But there are no North County farmers markets that accept the EBT card or offer Market Match. There are farmers markets all over the South Coast that do in South County, and 2 of the ones in Big County do, but none in the Santa Maria, Guadalupe, Orchid area.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I could take this off, but Dennis, works for the county, and he was really responsible for gathering a lot of this data early on when we started in 2020. And so this really showed the potential impact and the lack of funding that is coming to North County because there are no markets. And so with that, I think we can talk to Mireya Pina. She's a coordinator at Family Service Agency, and she's really led the community and volunteer aspect, including our community survey for food insecure families.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mireya. It's great to be here and share a little bit more about PRESA. This has been 2 years in the making, so it just kind of feels like everything's here in front of us today. And as Alan was saying, we did a lot of groundwork just to kind of learn what people would want to see. What are some of the barriers that prevent people from attending these farmers markets? So in the survey results, after we collected a little bit over 500 of them, those were collected in different food distributions in Guadalupe and Santa Maria. They were collected by our volunteers, some of our community changers. Juventino was helping us reach those hard to reach populations, such as the Mixteco speaking folks. And what we learned was that, a lot of them would visit a farmer's market if they had access to one. And then we see Juventino in a picture down there. I think that was here in Guadalupe at the city's, food distribution, and so. Yeah, that's some of our volunteers in doing some work, and then we have on the right-hand side, which locations people would attend farmers markets at. So we see that downtown tends to be a good place for folks to. Where it would be a great place for a farmer's market to be, if they were close to home, a lot of potentially transportation barriers that could be there. And then if they were located at church, we see 10% of them would go if they were there, but mostly it's like the downtown, and if they were close to home, it's where people would be inclined to go to farmers markets. If we go to the next slide, here we go. And these are some of the reasons that people don't purchase at farmers markets more frequently. Didn't realize it was pretty behind me to point that way. But it's because it's too expensive, so that's kind of where that EBT market match program would be really helpful. Also, the days of the weeks that they're happening, sometimes they're during the day and people work. Transportation is also one of those reasons, and some people just don't feel comfortable at them. And then we also see the different languages that were represented in these surveys. So we got a lot of Mixteco speakers who shared their opinion. And then we see a lot of the indigenous languages, and then we had a small number of Spanish speakers, but I think a lot of them speak Mixteco as their primary language. And then over here on the right, this was very shocking because a lot of the families who do attend these food distributions don't have EBT. So there's some, potentially some stigma around having these EBT benefits, or people just don't know that they're eligible for these social services. And I think from here, I was just gonna kind of pass it on to Shelby so she can talk a little bit more about what we need to get a farmer's market started here in Guadalupe.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us tonight. My name is Shelby Wild. I'm the executive director of Route 1 Farmers Market. We operate in Vandenberg Village in Montauk. And we've been running for just over 3.5 years now to work to do just exactly this for our community in Montauk. And so I'm here to kind of advocate and help answer any questions that might come up that might potentially be something that we've had to already research and address in doing our programming. Route 1 is happy to support and partner in whatever way could be the best beneficial that everyone decides. But we just really want to encourage everyone to take a look at what the community feedback is. Obviously, yes, at almost 71.4% is pretty resounding feedback in favor of greater food access in Guadalupe, and we found the same thing in Montauk. Like I said, Route 1's, we've been accepting EBT and offering that double your dollars match for 2.5 years. We're a tiny market. We're only open 4 hours a week, and we've been able to distribute over $25,000 in incentives in that amount of time. All of that money staying locally and going directly to support our small farmers. So it's just a win-win. So yeah, just open to any questions on next steps or about any of the information that's in the report.
Yeah, so I think I can take it up for this last slide. But I'm sure you guys will have questions, and we actually have a few community members who wanted to also share their own perspectives. But just to kind of summarize what Fresa is doing, we have monthly meetings. Ariston actually joined our last month's meeting, and he was able to really just share his own enthusiasm. And that's something that's really common at these Fresa meetings. And Guadalupe, as you know, we kind of want to do it ourselves. We're action oriented. And that's what Fresa really wants to organize. So with these monthly meetings, we're hoping to have funding for bilingual and Spanish and English speakers. But we're hoping that we can get more funding, that we could bring in our Mixteco speaking communities to these monthly meetings, and so we can hear directly from them, not just in a one-time survey. Like Shelby mentioned, we also have this market model. Fresa, alongside our partners, are a nonprofit. And so we ourselves could not, hold this business. But Route One has shown a model of a nonprofit farmers market, and so we want to help the city partner and coordinate how we can do that. One way that we're doing that right now is through a farmer and vendor survey. So we're asking farmers, what do you sell? Where are you currently and what's your availability so we can get you here in Guadalupe? And our last thing, which maybe you can't see here, is just what else do we do? We're going to continue doing outreach. We're going to continue talking about the CalFresh policy, the state program. We're going to keep advocating for food access in North County. And so with that, you can feel free to take a picture of that QR code and you'll get the Zoom invite. And if you want to contact us, here is our contact information. But I really appreciate your time and I really appreciate Ariston for allowing Fresa to really introduce ourselves to the city for the first time. And yeah, again, if you guys have questions, I think that's it for today.
Just a comment, I represent the council and the city, so it's not just me, because I think the council and the city is interested in what you're doing. So what specifically do you need from the city of Guadalupe?
As far as launching a market,
What can we do to enhance this?
so it really depends on what key players want to be involved and what structure they want it to take. It can be run by a city, a farmer's market can be run by a city. Route One is in for as much or as little as Guadalupe would like us to be involved. So if you wanted it to be in-house thing, we're happy to advise and guide and point you in the right direction. It could also be a market under the umbrella of our nonprofit that we do a similar thing, but you can, use our logo and piggyback on some of the permits in our nonprofit status. So it's really that just kind of needs to be discussed. There is funding that would be, we don't have the funding in-house to expand to Guadalupe at the time. We're kind of busy doing that in the book. But definitely want to support it happening. So funding for a staff like point person that would be that market manager and advocate and figure out those kind of final details and really should be someone embedded in the community that can speak to what is best for Guadalupe. I am not that person. So funding for that and just initial kind of startup costs and permitting, which is not expensive.
And as far as like what Fresa can do, we really are here to provide that coordination, make sure that, we have ongoing meetings that you can already join in on. Or if you want to have now specific distinct meetings to really get the agreements and citing, really our biggest needs are a location, which we talked about at our Fresa meetings, funding, and again, community members who want to participate and lead this work. And hopefully you'll hear from some later that, again, people already want to do this. People want this yesterday. And so again, we're really here to support as much as, is needed.
Yeah, a location, I missed that, but that's really key, is that a compliant, an ADA compliant location that's available with parking and all that necessary stuff would be, very high up on the list.
I'm going to, can you, I know we have several requests to speak on behalf of this Fresca program, so just bring it to the council, any questions of the group?
Yeah, I do. How does the EBT dollars work for the market, like working on these markets?
Yeah. So the market manager would become, would just apply to accept the funds. So that part operates just like a grocery store would. You apply to accept. The state's actually really supportive of farmers markets. They expedite it and there's no fee. They want to see these funds accepted at farmers markets. So it's just a simple application. You do have to be qualified to accept federal funds. So there's a bit of a background check, I believe, and then you get a machine and you literally just, it's hooked up to the market bank account. You swipe the card, you distribute tokens that work, that's the script, they call it, that they would use to shop. And the money is deposited the next day in the market's account. The customers take that script to the farmers and shop with it. At the end of the day, the farmers bring it back to the market manager and they're.
Got it. So you would need like an entity in order to have like a bank account and.
Yeah, definitely need a bank account. Yeah, because that's all electronic.
But it sounds like one of the options is your group to actually
Yeah, the financing would need to be discussed, how,
Okay,
like,
sure.
who would be in charge of that, and
Right.
if someone was coming to the table with those funds, I think that would be really easily handled in-house. It's not a crazy lift or expense. It's just like a business checking account, consulting fee. And then market match, the double your dollars is a separate grant on top of that. Once the market is operating for a year, you can apply for market match. That's run by the Ecology Center in Berkeley. And they fund us a grant, so we're contracted for a certain amount of year, or a certain amount per year, and that covers some of your staff time to administrate the program. And it funds your match, so you bill every month for what you paid out in match, and they reimburse you monthly.
If I may ask, not about what you get paid or if you do, but what is the budget that you run on?
Sure, so I would like to see them make as much as possible, but I would say $10, 10 hours a week would be reasonable for a new market manager. That's including running the market while it's open, and then running, the billing and the promotion and stuff during the week. So, hourly wages negotiable. And then as far as permitting and equipment, I think $5,000 for startup costs outside of staff costs would cover it.
How about the administrative paperwork, stuff like that? Is it expensive or?
It's not really, once you have everything in line, it took us a while, but it was because our property center negotiated for 9 months. It doesn't have to be that long. So it depends on the property. But it's really just, it's a public health permit with the county, and it's an ag permit with county weights and measures.
And then we should be hearing from Dennis Apple, who has actually volunteered and wants to make a financial donation as well as time to do some of these permitting also. So again, I really want to highlight the fact that people really want to just take it upon themselves, and hopefully you can hear from him directly in a bit.
On my left side, council members, any questions or comments? Gil, you good?
I mean, I could see it as a big benefit here in the community. More of kind of a concept right now, and there's a lot of finality that has to be worked out. And you guys got a lot of meetings and ideas, but I think there's still a lot of fine lines that gotta be right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually, like Mireya mentioned earlier, we've been organizing for the past 2 years. And so we've had some opportunity to hear from the food bank, from FSA. We even had a chance to introduce ourselves to the GBA earlier this year at the beginning of the year. And so I do agree. I think right now, after spending this time learning about what the community needs, what the priority is, and where the gap is, I think now we are ready to fully open a market. And so we do think we're at that spot where we want to coordinate what the agreement looks like, what a budget actually looks like. But thankfully, we've been doing a project.
Yeah, and we're really just, it's sort of a call to partner with whoever is interested in being involved in getting this up and running. And of course, the support of the city would be amazing and help really spearhead any movement in that direction.
Several months ago, I received a phone call, and they mentioned that in the years past that the city wasn't open to this. And I basically said in the past they were open to it, and I personally am open to it because I think that, there's 5 different food banks that are in operation. The Little House, the city runs one, the White House does, and I think Escalante has something, so that we know that the need is there. So you have some requests to speak. Any more questions? How about staff? Any questions from staff?
Sounds great.
Hannah? We give her a mic there.
Guys, we're talking about locations. Do you have a couple in mind that are compliant with the regulations?
Yeah, so there have been a couple locations where we've talked about, but we have not had the discussion on the ADA compliance. So the number one option that's really community facing is just the gazebo area. So that would be a great just front facing market zone. However, with the ADA compliance that I was recently looking at, I don't actually know if that would be the best one or if it would be eligible, but that's one of our kind of primary ones. Other options would be near where the senior center is or the new community center, since it has appropriate parking, running water, hot water, which is needed, as well as just a zone for family members. And again, in Guadalupe, you know, we're one of the youngest cities here. I live in Guadalupe, I grew up here. And so I really understand that community members need an option that they can walk towards. And so we're really hoping that those three areas are what we're looking at. But again, you know, we really are trying to now follow the city's lead and kind of how far you would want to go or what areas would work best. And another option, like I mentioned, is the GBA. We introduced ourselves earlier in the year, but we really want to work with them. So it's not just farmers and local vendors, but food vendors, our local restaurants. That way, it's not just a farmer's market where you can purchase food, but you can go to the senior center where you can get distributed food, or you can go to a restaurant and buy prepared food. So really want to make Guadalupe a food hub as opposed to a food desert, which for a county that makes billions of dollars every year in agriculture, the people who grow the food should really have the first access to buy local fresh food.
Just out of, you mentioned hot water. You have to have hot water and
It need the vendors, because they're working for labor laws, need access to bathroom without running water. We don't have to provide it to customers. It's just for vendors.
okay, so it doesn't,
And it
that's,
needs to be within 250.
okay, that's, okay.
And again, you know, if you guys want to have a meeting next week, we're happy to schedule that
Well, we'll
meeting,
do that
but
Friday.
right,
Friday.
we have a meeting on Friday, so if you guys want to join and just meet the people who are really doing the work, because again, we heard about this lack of food support, and I know we've already taken up double our time, but we got equally as surprised and upset as you probably feel right now. We don't believe that this food inequity is by accident. Right now, there is a huge discrepancy between South County and North County. And so we actually want to partner with the SLO markets, the Santa Barbara, South County markets, so we can all collectively talk about this. So the Santa Barbara County Food Action Network is actually one of those county-wide food groups that is really spreading the message. But Fresa, as you can see by our logo, you know, we thought it was really important to focus on North County. So right now, we've been doing a lot of work to get this proposal from Guadalupe. And so now we're hoping that you guys can really take it across the finish line. And so Fresa will be here to support as we continue to work with Guadalupe, Santa Maria, Lompoc, and Cuyama, because they also have these food desert areas. And again, we want to be North County focused, and so we will be here.
You have several individuals that like to speak in your support, so one of them, if I may, Megan Lazalde, she was unable to be here, but she mentions I fully support this and feel that Guadalupe needs this type of program, community actions. Mr. Dennis Fell, is he back there? There he is. Hey, Dennis.
Just to say who I am, my wife and I have for 27 years been in Guadalupe. We used to be called the White House when we lived in a White House, but now we're in a brown house, but everybody calls it the White House still. I don't know how that works that way, but I really was, I admit, I'm the one that told Ariston that I tried this years ago under a different administration. It was flatly poo-pooed. I just really think we've been feeding families in Guadalupe now for 27 years. We know that it really needs to, people need access, and they need access to good food, and the kinds of food you get at the farmer's market are really ought to be on people's tables. I mean, most of them are harvesting that food anyway, you know. So I just I want to support that, and I am also one of the ones who am anxious to get it going, So what I see is there's obstacles to get to the finish line, and any obstacles that I can remove, I'm happy to do that. I have some time and I have some money. So there's permit fees, there's certain fees to get the thing going. I'm willing to front that money. I'm willing to be an initial market manager. If we don't get one when we're ready for one, I would do that. I would do that without compensation, just to get the thing going. It's really important to me. I think what we need from the city is just a decision about, do you want some individual in Guadalupe taking the lead on this, or does the city want to be the entity that takes the lead on this? And for anybody who feels like they've got a lot of time on the city council, you're welcome to take it. If not, I'm offering.
She's finishing her term, so she'll. She just got her master's in business, but.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just want to say I'm very much in support of that. I think it would be very successful. The best part is, to me, is it would be set up to accept EBT, and there are no North County farmers markets, I think, that accept EBT, which is just a crying shame. I know for ourselves, the people that come to our house, I would begin immediately finding out who doesn't have it and why, and how can I help them get it, so that they can have access to really good food.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for your commitment. The next person, Belinda Popovich.
Hello, everybody. So I am a member of the Guadalupe Business Association, as well as a board member of the Los Amigos de Guadalupe. I'm currently acting as kitchen manager over with the senior center program that is getting off the ground, getting meals to our seniors. And I've been having to do a lot of legwork with finding ways to make our budget stretch. And I know that having a farmer's market in town, at a certain point, food can't be taken to the next market. It's going to be donated, and it would be great to see those items donated to go towards the brown bags, food banks, or at the senior center to bring some of that in addition to, from a business perspective, if our businesses know that they can get fresher fruits and vegetables on these farmers markets days, that they could try to partner up with various different farmers and say, I need X vegetables. If I can have that ready to go, and I'll pick it up on that day. So it helps us to get fresher items within our markets here. Both GBA and LADG do support getting a farmer's market in, and we are hoping to help however we can through either social media posting through both, or if there's any type of support that we can offer, knowledge, connecting people together, we're more than happy to offer that type of thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I failed to recognize our Tahoe council person. Are you on the line, Antonio?
Yes, but you are A-okay. There, I have no questions. Everything's been answered. But I am definitely in support of this. Like, I think that it's something that's been needed for ages already.
Thank you, Antonio. The next person, Stephanie Kraus.
Hello, I'm happy to be here. I was living in Guadalupe for 25 years, and I've been helping out with the food bank for the last year and a half. And also I work delivering the senior meals. And I feel like everybody should be able to get healthy food. And especially people at the lowest income, where they're working in the fields. It just seems like just a crying shame that those are the people that cannot get healthy food. And we should have healthy foods here every week. I know when I give out food for the food bank, it's not, we've all seen it. Anybody who's involved with that know that some days we have great produce and other days there's nothing. And it would just be so great if we could have a farmer's market that would bring people together from all income levels. And I would really appreciate if the city could support this. So,
Thank you, Steph. And it was interesting when I was walking in today. There was a lady from Pasadena that said she's coming to the farmer's market. And she thought there was actually going to be a farmer's market today. And I said, no, it's just talking about it, but in the future. I'm going to bring it back to the council for consensus in terms of supporting this? Good?
Yeah, I
okay.
think we need, this needs to happen.
Yes.
So,
Okay. And I think,
it's great.
at this point, I know that the city is limited in what they can do, but I think that, without pointing at fingers at Hannah to be the point person, unless the chief wants to do it, to work with the community and then work out the details as far as what we need. And I'll leave this up to Todd in terms of pointing the finger to her. So is that okay for her to work with the group?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
had a feeling you were gonna say that. I'll be in attendance in the meeting this Friday. This Friday? Okay, yeah, I'll be there.
Anna, are you raising your hand or you're just waving? Anna?
No.
Oh, okay, all right. The consensus from the council, I'm sure Antonio's actually said he supports it, but it's a great program. And like it was mentioned, is that we, the farm workers in this area harvest product that they can't even eat, can't even purchase. So this is a great program.
it sounds like you wouldn't be alone, so you have a good team
Yeah.
behind you, so.
So I think my question to you guys and to them, I guess, it would be, would you be expecting me to be the market manager or?
No, just to be the point person for the city. Now there's permitting, there's location, there's all these things. That's it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think the first step would just be to come to our monthly meeting this Friday, and again, I think we're more than happy to coordinate with you, so. If your capacity is limited, I know I've been bugging Hannah about the new air monitors that CEC is bringing. So you'll hear about that in 2 weeks, but yeah, I think we can just figure out kind of what you have time for, because I'm sure a lot of you guys are busy.
And then in a permitting process and the site locations, working with the staff and.
Yeah.
And then work public works, police department, public safety, so.
Maybe even fees.
I think you got I appreciate your time being here and that, even the time that you had is not enough, but, we appreciate what's going on and you have our support, so.
Thank you. Well, I just want to say, this feeling that we all have is usually the feeling that we try to cultivate at our PRESA meetings, and I'm surprised at how often we leave our PRESA meetings with smiles on our faces and action oriented. So thank you for just showing leadership for Guadalupe.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Let's see, there's one request to speak. Emilio Andel, is he still here?
I'm here.
Okay, you're not playing volleyball?
No, they're all done. Didn't you hear them out in the hallway? It sounded like they're playing out in the hallway.
They probably were.
Jeez, I was expecting their principal saying, "Hey, you quiet us down out there."
Okay.
Well, good evening, everyone. Mayor Julian, council members, city staff, it's great to be with you here tonight. My name is Emilio Andel. I proudly serve as the superintendent of the Guadalupe Union School District. I'm happy to be with you tonight to share some information about a bond measure that will be on the ballot this fall. But before I launch into that information, I want to also voice my support for a farmer's market. Being a lifelong South County citizen, I got to tell you, the discrepancies between North County and South County are so vast that some of the things that are taken for granted in South County aren't happening here. And I know with the population that we serve, that the community could really utilize what is really a vast resource in the area, but is not for some reason being tapped into by the folks that are growing the food, as was mentioned earlier. So whatever the city council can do and whatever the school or schools can play a role in helping out this effort, I gladly lend my time and ear to listen to what we can do, because it is sorely needed, and you throw in the element of the EBT card and the access that our families need to that healthy food, fresh food is beyond description. So I just want to put my support behind that publicly as well. So as far as our measures, measures V and W are going to be on the ballot this fall. They are going to be two $8.5 million bond measures that will help us build the new junior high that we so badly need. We are impacted at both of our sites. We have close to 800 students at the Mary Buren site. And with the mandated expansion of transitional kindergarten, we're only going to have to start housing more students. All 4-year-olds are going to be coming to school pretty soon as well as the impact at our junior high. We just simply don't have the parking here to house more. You should laugh because, man, we know it's a complete disaster in the morning if you haven't been here between 8 and 8:20. But the impact on parking, the impact on students, the impact in this side of town with the number of students that we have coming into the school is a serious problem, and one that actually poses a danger to the students and the families and the staff that come and work at Mary Buren. Our hope is with the 2 $8.5 million bonds, we'd be able to build a new junior high as well as complete the gymnasium project that was part of the 2016 bond measures of M and N. Just so you know, when we priced out the gymnasium, if you haven't heard, costs for labor and materials have gone up slightly. And so it cost us out even before the pandemic. So you can imagine how far short we are in terms of funding for that. So my architects and a lot of the really smart people got together and figured out how to bring down the cost of the gymnasium project by incorporating it onto the campus of the proposed new junior high. It's our hope and our belief that if we pass these bond measures, I am certain that we'll be able to build both the gymnasium and the junior high school. Also know that the state of California has allocated $17 million to the school district to build the junior high. Unfortunately, that only covers half the cost of building a new junior high school. So we've already broken ground in hopes and in anticipation that we're going to be able to build a junior high. We had to remediate the soil because there are some challenges with the soil locally. So we've started that part, but we haven't done an actual ribbon cutting to start the project or a breaking ground ceremony simply because we know it's contingent on passing these bond measures. I do have just like 5 frequently asked question sheets that whoever wants to hand me, you want to hand it to Todd there. I will send you more electronically. We're going to post them on our website. I know Garrett, when I spoke to him on Sunday, he posted it on the Pasadena website, and he also promised to share it with the GBA at their next meeting. So I'm hoping we can get this information out so that people understand that, yes, we may have broken ground on the site, but we are far, far, far from actually completing the project. We have a lot of other exciting projects that are in the works that I'll share with you later, but at this time, I wanted to share this information with the city council and the public here at this meeting so that they understand the importance of these ballot measures and passing them, because without passing these ballot measures, we're going to have to send that $17 million back to the state, and the state will reallocate it to cities or school districts that are willing to pass similar ballot measures that we're asking of our Guadalupe citizens. And at this time, if you got any questions, I'll do the best I can.
Well, it's much needed. You know, look at the parade this weekend, seeing all the kids. And then speaking with you in regards to getting the kindergartners.
Yeah.
Up and running
earlier. Right.
And then the pre-K and all this.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah,
I mentioned to Ariston that one of the projects that we have in the work is actually leveraging state funding as well as potentially some state of federal appropriations, much like the appropriations that were given through the federal budget process recently. The appropriation process would pay for administrative building. We're hoping to build an early care center that would house all of our 4-year-olds and all of our 3-year-olds in town. We were recently awarded a California State preschool program grant of over $750,000 to get started, and we're hoping to be able to begin the educational process and experience for all 3-year-olds in the community. And that's my vision, that's our vision of the district, to get our students earlier so that they have better opportunities as they come through our system. So that's one of the many projects that we have in the pipeline, and if we don't pass this bond measure, we're gonna be stuck trying to cram, an additional 260 students onto this campus, which would put it over 1,000 students on this campus with all the traffic and impaction of staff and what have you on one campus. And we really don't want that. We believe that the families in the community of Guadalupe deserve better. I believe that they deserve better, and you all know that they deserve better than what we have right now. So I hope that the council will put their support behind this measure so that we can really start getting the ball rolling with our educational facilities here in the community.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Good job. You too. Any other requests to speak under community participation? I don't see anything, so we'll go to item 6, consent calendar. These items are presented to the council as a blanket, if approved a blanket. Is there a council member that wishes to pull an item? Okay,
6H3.
6H. Public Works,
Yeah,
okay.
it's just,
Anything else, anybody else?
Nope.
Thank you, Antonio. Is there a motion to pass the balance of the consent calendar?
I'll motion to pass the balance of the consent calendar.
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Yeah, I just have a couple questions, just clarification, regarding, for example, the first one is the solid waste, the SB 1826. Is this requiring additional bins for the commercial properties?
Yes, it does require additional bins, for those that meet the specific criteria. We sent letters out to all of those potential customers who might meet those requirements. They are welcome to submit a waiver application, provide us information saying why we shouldn't need them, and we've accepted all the waiver applications that have been submitted. Everybody else, the bins will be have been delivered to the ones previously will be delivered for these new ones. So yes.
Got it. Thank you. And then I got excited for the electrical vehicle,
Yes.
the EV buses and potential funding. So can you share about that, please?
Okay, yes, I am equally excited. I've cobbled together, I can't tell you how many grants in order to make this happen. We did submit a purchase order for our first electric bus. Don't get too excited, it's 14 months away.
Oh,
So although I issued the purchase order, that's how long it takes for manufacture. But that's paid for out of, this is gonna be an alphabet soup, $550,000 from LC Top. Please don't ask me what it stands for, I can't remember. $250,000 from 3CE and an additional $156,000 with an HVIP voucher from the state of California. So that's bus number 1. We recently got information that we received additional funding for a second bus through the federal 5339 program, and that's $884,000. And I will also ask for an HVIP and a 3CE grant for that. So that'll cover that bus. And then the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Act grant. I didn't think a bus was included, but I just got the information that sure enough, a third electric bus will be paid for out of that grant as well. That's 75% of our full fleet. In fact, the 4th bus won't meet its useful life for quite some years, so it doesn't even make sense to do the 4th one electrically. And then for the first bus, The charging station is also paid for out of the Affordable Housing and Stable Communities Act. That's $700,000, and we plan on doing that at the city's corporation yard, which is located at 303 Bethesda. Now that the purchase order has been made, and we put in a PG&E application for the service, because it's going to require a new service from PG&E for the output transformer. Now we can start the design phase of actually building that. And obviously, I've got the 14 months until the bus comes in. So we're really making great progress in meeting what is a goal for 2040.
Wow. When I saw like one, I'm like, okay, one, and then read it further, I was like 3. So I just got really excited.
You know, we went after everything we could get, and all of them popped. We couldn't be more excited.
Also a question regarding the current meet system or routes. I think how people have responded to that as well. If there's, you know. something that we-
Thank you. So I plan on providing an update to that in October. I didn't think I was going to do in August, and I realized, you know, the first month is hardly a good indication of how it's doing. I take public transit and I see how many people are on the bus, and it appears, at least I know the express between here and Santa Maria is very well used. When I take the bus in the afternoon, I see 12 people get off at the Amtrak. There were some complaints initially, people who weren't used to the system. A couple of people who were disappointed that the shuttle went away, but then when they found that the local bus comes by every half hour at a given stop, they accepted that. There was one written letter of complaint, but those were items that were easily addressed, and so I wrote back and responded to that. So I'm getting numbers on transit riders as well as cost versus revenue. Plan on presenting that in October.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, I didn't know if we needed to address anything or but so far.
We did recognize that we have a problem with the transfer token. People were misunderstanding the purpose of the transfer token and losing revenue because they would take the transfer token and not transfer to the next bus. They would just use it for their next ride. So we're going to have to alter that process. So little things like that. We learned early on how important it was for the two routes to communicate with each other, to make sure that if there's a rider on one, that the other driver knew, you know, to wait a minute or so for those riders to transfer. But all in all, it appears anecdotally to be successful. We'll find out from the numbers in the next month.
Thank you. That was it. I just wanted.
Okay, good questions and good answers. Is there a motion to pass H3? Is that calendar?
Motion to approve H3.
Second, there's a second, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Antonio. Item 7, city administrators report, information only.
I was asked, and I think you've in the past in November, I was asked if we were gonna have a meeting on November 22nd, and a lot of it's due to a planning item that needs to be on that agenda. So I was asked if the council wants to have that meeting, the second meeting in November. It's 2 days before the holiday or Thanksgiving. So I just thought I'd ask.
So if anybody is not going to be here, they need to let us,
Mhm.
let everybody know. So I think typically we don't have that meeting.
We don't, okay.
That was one. That's a couple
I thought it was
days.
Christmas, December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you.
It's just the Christmas one.
So
Okay, all right.
There's one of them.
Okay, yeah.
you do or don't?
Thursday,
we do.
Okay.
you gotta be here. Thursday, might be out of town.
Not that big.
No.
And then today, I guess I know the mayor knows, we caught wind that we did receive this EDA grant award close to 5 million for the Royal Theater. So that takes another grant of 5. We had almost 10 million in grants. And then we're also going for a $1.5 million tax credit. As you know, the cost could go up, but the estimated cost of this project is 10 million. So if we can achieve that additional 1.5 million, that'll be enough to kind of put us over the top to make sure we can finish the
What's
project.
happening with that building?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that it, sir?
No, I'll bring up another matter behind the scenes later.
You're gonna, why don't you bring up, if you don't mind,
Sure.
the group today that was,
Oh, yeah. There was a production crew, I forget the name of them.
and it's
called-
in the mayor's. report.
It's in the mayor's report. And they're wanting to develop a film called Breaking Through. And it's about a family that actually the mayor's wife knows pretty well.
Even his family.
Yeah, the Jimenez family. And it's about a group that came over here across the border and they want to make a life for themselves. And they're going to start filming here in Hannah's office to start off with. And then I think maybe that's all, or maybe some other locations.
Yeah, well, the vets
Yeah.
office, maybe one portion of the vets
Yeah.
office, but there's some areas that probably should, and I'll talk to you about it, that probably are off.
Yeah,
limits.
and then, some open field areas around the area and some other areas. The storyline's in there if you want to read it and what it's all about. And I'm gonna actually be a principal in it. So I'm not speaking,
Literally a principal.
literally, I'll
Not
be
a Thunder, yeah.
yeah, so they just needed a principal and I'm probably gonna be a bad guy in there. I don't know, but
You are.
who knows?
Are you good? Doug?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, Director of Public Safety, Informational Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, staff, and citizens. Quickly in my report, been doing a traffic survey with Mary Buren for the last couple of weeks, been directing traffic in the morning and the afternoon, working with the superintendent. At first, they pretty much said that they thought this was a city issue, but I showed them that we don't have a traffic problem unless it's school related. So he's now willing to work with me and come up with some solutions. I mailed him some aspects of to have have training of traffic control people. The people they have right now are not allowed via the company they're working with to do traffic control, which makes a major congestion and a big liability. So I will be attending the school board meeting tomorrow to hopefully get some more support. And I'm still working with him. I'm gonna, he asked for a cost analysis of having traffic control personnel to be able to work in that area. So that's on that one. The residential permit program that the council approved. I think I gave you a copy of what the permit looks like. And I appreciate the direction I got from the council of how we're going to disseminate these permits. So the residents are really happy. So we're just trying to put the finishing touches on so we can get those out there and get this program really started. For those who were not able to attend, the Mexican Independence Parade went off extremely well. Very well attended. We even have our own dancers that are on staff. They did a great job. First time I got to see that. Everyone was really happy. And the traffic plan went very well. It's very peaceful, so it was very good. I connected with the organizers yesterday via email, and the only thing we talked about was, make sure that we start early next year so that we can get all the paperwork done. And I appreciate Shannon. She let me vent with her. The last minutes, we're trying to work together, trying to get everything done with shutting down the traffic and get everything done, but it did happen. So thank you very much. Over the holiday weekend, the issue of Airbnbs really came to the forefront, and that was something that was passed by the council. And I look at that was for public safety. We just really dropped the ball because we didn't really have anything in place yet to really enforce as far as the Airbnbs. I sent the staff work together, fire and police department, and I sent a package to all the council of the steps being taken to rectify this. And to work more with code compliance and fire department. We now have a plan. We've identified at least the ones that are online as far as the Airbnbs. I think we have about 13, and working with the city attorney because eventually we know it's going to end up there. But we'll be getting the information out to the Airbnb people as far as getting their permits and getting the fees sent back to the city. And we now have a process in place with the fire department and code compliance so that we can do enforcement and be working with the city attorney on that one. And last but not least, it's sometimes we really forget where we work and how we really come in contact with people here in town. We had a gentleman, I'm not gonna give his name, an elderly gentleman came into the police department last week with his cane, and we thought, we're here to provide him services. And he just whips out $100 bill and says, I want to donate to the police department. I like you guys. And we were trying to turn him away because it was cash. And he goes, no. So I said, okay, hold on. So we finally took it, but I ran over to finance because I wanted to get a receipt. We don't like touching money. I get back and he was gone. And he only told the staff, says, I don't want you to know who I am. I love my city and I love my department, and I gave you money.
Chief, what's your last name?
No, that's why I wanted to make sure that we got a receipt at least. So we have the receipt in the office, if it shows up, but fiscal did give me a receipt so that everyone knows that we're not over there partying, but it's really nice. I mean, just citizens just to drop in and do something like that. It makes it worthwhile for us to kind of keep showing up and doing what we're doing. You sometimes forget that you do touch a lot of people, and it's very nice, and especially with the crossing guard. And I appreciate it, Councilman. I get more kids who know who I am and say thank you in the mornings, even though that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, but they expect me to be there directing traffic, and they're saying, thank you, Chief, and like, you keep telling yourself, I can't come back. I got other stuff to do, but you got to come back the next day because they're expecting it. And so
with that $100, you can buy donuts and you can have
you're really gonna go there. Well, that's my report. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The next item is mayor's report. It's there. Please check it out. Then we'll go to public hearing, item number 10, to consider track 29 006, vesting tentative track map to allow subdivision of a 26.82 acre parcel. Please, welcome, Mr. Bill Scott, city planner.
Mr. Scott, before you get started, I just want to just verify real fast with the city attorney that it's okay that I am still a part of this. It's not, the Pasadena South is not near where I live, but it's in the same development, so.
Well,
I'm right there in the orange, at the very top of the orange, and what Mr. Scott's gonna be talking about is at the very far right end, or left end, sorry, left end.
How
far is that?
Way over 300 feet.
Okay.
Way over 300.
Yeah, well, is it 500 feet? Just like
I'd say way over 500.
Okay, it's most likely, since it's so far, council member.
I figured it's way more than 500 feet, but I just wanted to double check for the record.
Technically up to, I'm sorry, I should be speaking in the microphone. Technically up to 1,000 is possible, but since this is a housing tract, I think more than 500 feet is, I think I lost, okay. I think you're fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill.
Thank you again, Mayor, City Council, staff. It's good to be here. We're getting close to the end. This is the kind of like the next to the last track in Pasadena South, track 29066. The project is a vesting tentative track map, city permit number 2021-099 TTM. The map subdivides a 26.82 acre parcel into 113 lots. The next phase of the DJ Farm specific plan, also known as Pasadena South. Again, we have the location map and the excerpt from the specific plan showing the vicinity and the particular tract. There's 3 land uses that we'll talk about. Overall, it's pretty straightforward. And again, the 3 land uses, primarily residential, a little park, and then some low density residential. that's the map that this subdivision comes from, a master track map 29063 typo up there. Again, you can see lot 4 is the one we're subdividing now, the lower right-hand or easternmost lot that's currently being subdivided. The project site that's looking down the railroad track, obviously the developed Pasadena North on the north side of the railroad tracks, on the right-hand side, the lot 9 north developed. Our current project on the left-hand side, the vacant area to be subdivided. The project description, again, the subdivision allows 113 total lots on the 226.8 acres, 3 specific land uses, 111 single-family lots. Lot 12 proposes a dual use, part public park, part of the stormwater basin. Lot 113, the last lot, not a part of this particular subdivision. That's the subject, that's the map itself. Again, obviously, the main part, the substantial part, what it's all about is the 111 single-family lots. They all meet the specific plan. That area is zoned R1, 5,000 square foot minimum lots. The lots meet that specific plan standard. Smallest are about 5,000 square feet. Some range up to about 11,000 square feet, some of the bigger ones. So the subdivision meets the specific plan in terms of the primary, the main part of it. There's a couple areas you can see that area we'll talk about a little bit more. The other 2 land uses on the right and kind of in the center, but that's one of them. So the specific plan designates that area roughly, I think it's 14,000 or so square feet for recreation is what the specific plan calls it. So that area designated for recreation use by the specific plan. That's what the map does. The map proposes kind of like we said, a dual use, part park, part basin. So I'm gonna let the applicant kind of explain the why, the need for the basin. So we do lose some park, but we have to accommodate a basin. So you can see, I'd say that's roughly estimated 6,000 square feet is park, and then the lower portion is basin. So that's particular, that's lot 112. The last lot, 113, again, there was a portion of the specific plan originally and still designated for larger lots, 7,000 square foot lots and bigger. The specific plan envisioned 15 lots that would be kind of the executive lots, so to speak, 7,000 square feet or bigger. As you recall, something happened. The railroad didn't want to cooperate. You can see a dashed line on the far right-hand side that was supposed to be emergency access. The railroad didn't allow it. So where the cul-de-sacs were going to line up, we had to revise and build a bridge. So when we built the bridge, the Aurora Seco extension, it realigned the Aurora Seco Road and it shrunk the 7,000 square foot lot area. The specific plan designated that area for, again, 15 larger lots. It was 4.6 acres under that designation of the specific plan. After we built the bridge, or at least realigned for the bridge and realigned the roadway, it shrunk by about 2 acres. So now I estimate it's about 2.6 acres. So given that, I think the developer decided they want to look at it a little bit more. Maybe 7,000 square foot lots aren't feasible anymore. I'm going to let the developer explain the rationale. So for the purposes of this map, it's simply not a park. Maybe it requires further study. So, and again, that's the area right now as it is. It's obviously farmland. It would have been 7,000 square foot lots. The way the permit is structured or conditioned. Until we know what's gonna go on or what's gonna happen there, it'll be just smooth graded over, made flat, maybe planted with a ground cover. Maybe until it's developed, whatever that is, maybe it's a place where somebody can walk a dog or kick a soccer ball or do something. So it would just be maintained as a vacant land until such time as the next step. So in summary, track 29066, 113 lots, 111, 5,000 square feet or bigger, 14,889 lot for the dual use. Parking basin is proposed by the applicant. And then that 114,89 square feet, not a part of this current subdivision. Used to be determined.
say it would be subdivided later. If it's not subdivided under the 7,000 square foot designation, we probably need a specific plan amendment, but we'll wait and see what the plan is in the future. Other map components we looked at, everything else lines up with the previous maps. The map design meets the subdivision ordinance. The roadways are found to be meet the specific plan, consistent with specific plan. The Obispo Street or Bristol Bridge will be complete before the first occupancy. Perimeter walls are consistent with previous maps, same 6-foot wall, masonry walls around the subdivision. 2 veteran street names are carried through and a development agreement. So everything else is consistent with previous maps. Obviously, next stage is final map grading, improvement plans, and those next steps. CEQA, same CEQA, we reused the environmental impact report that was adopted in 2012. So the current map was found to meet those criteria of the EIR, and those mitigation measures are part of the project, and the mitigation monitoring program is attached as a part of the project. So with that, it's recommended the city council adopt resolution 202281 to approve the applicant's request as proposed tentative map track 29066 permit 2021-099 TTM. And I just remember, it's kind of gotten to be a tradition. We got a request for a couple of minor changes. Let me share those. Oops, excuse me, I'm sorry. Pass.
Yeah, I'll pass them down.
Look at a couple, see if you got a note. Always like to let the city attorney know what we're doing. Maybe I should. Maybe. Todd, you interested?
Maybe. Julia.
Got it. So with our recommendation with the retirement, I got my long range glasses.
Long range, short range.
The alternative, it's better than the alternative, it's good to be here. So the revised conditions, revised condition number 1 of the permit. And so condition 1, paragraph 5, and it's shown there. I can read that, but I think it's pretty clear. So that's the first one. And it would literally just remove some language that says the primary access is anticipated to be fully established prior to the beginning of construction. And the applicant proposed, it's the same, but it's got a little more detail. It just gives the applicant a little bit more flexibility. So it's the same thing with a little bit more flexibility. Staff supports it. I could read if necessary, but we just recommend
That's good,
review and
yeah.
accept. Number 2, revised engineering condition, number 38. And we just add the language as shown unless otherwise stated in the development agreement. And then 1 is just the planning. Number 3, I caught a typo, a mistake I made, and we just delete except for the lands described in condition 56 and just start with all the lands covered by lot 13 shall be graded, smooth graded. So again, as stated on that handout, staff would recommend approval with those changes. And I think with that, we conclude our presentation. Project engineer Lori Spear and builder Craig Smith are here, and they can follow up and answer any questions, and I'm available if you have any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to speak first? I'm going to open it up to public comment.
Me?
Any of you? Sure. No? Let me go ahead and open up a public hearing right now. What time is it? 7:15? 7:15 for for public hearing at 7:15. Did we receive any correspondence, Todd or Phil, regarding this?
I have not.
Okay. And is there any request to speak on this out there other than the applicants? So you want to go up and say anything, or you okay? You're good?
Less is more sometimes.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna close this public hearing at 7:16. So any comments or questions of the applicant from the council or staff?
I have a question. So is there two bridges?
There's two bridges.
So one's on Obispo Street towards the, end. Yeah. please.
Okay.
Number 52 was highlighted and it caught my eye in that part and it talks about the bridges, so I just wanted to.
So we have. That one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have two bridges. The primary one is the Obispo Street Bridge.
Okay.
That is going to be built as soon as possible. We've ordered the bridge parts. We're in the queue now for them. They're telling me they're somewhere around 6 months out to get them delivered. We're going to prep everything, the ground, put the footings in, so when they do come, we can install them and move as quickly as possible for the rest of the bridge. After 210 homes are built, which is basically the first track or lot one, it's that kind of a pie shaped one at the corner there. And the one that we're discussing this evening. After those are built, then we have to have the second bridge complete to start construction on the last phase. And that would be the Oroseko Bridge.
So it has to be complete by then? Got it.
I think you have
Is
the
that what you
dirt,
said? Yeah.
there's dirt being built up already. You can see where the dirt.
Yeah, we're pre-loading the soil with the
Okay.
ramps right now, so that it's settled.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Other than that,
Okay.
Evil Knievel.
You good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I was just, I think the 210 home and then the first home was what was confusing me. Which one
yeah.
comes first? Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
quite frankly, we want to build a couple of houses and sell them before we put the money into the second bridge, and just be straight up with.
Yeah.
It makes
yeah.
sense.
It needs some,
Need the tide to come back in.
yeah, really. Okay, what are the wishes of the council?
So I will motion to approve is there a,
It's amended, right?
it's amended?
We'll have that, yeah, but with the,
Resolution 2022-81 with the request of revision.
there's a second?
I'll second.
Okay, you got
Who's second?
2 seconds.
Which one?
Gene,
Flip a
Jane.
coin. Jane?
Jane,
Gene,
any discussion? We'll have roll call, please.
Councilmember Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilmember Cardenas,
Aye.
Councilmember Costa Junior,
Aye.
Councilmember Robles,
Aye.
Mayor Gilligan.
All right, all ayes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. All right, we'll go to regular business, item 11, Leroy Park Phase 2, scope of work and budget. Shannon.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. This topic, as you said, is the Leroy Park Phase 2 scope of work and budget. And I'm looking for some input. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page as we embark on this next phase of Leroy Park. Pretty exciting with direct support and sponsorship from Senator Dianne Feinstein and Congressman Salim Carvajal. We received an earmark of federal funds of $1.7 million. It is now time for us to submit an application to have those funds applied to this project. So we don't have the funding yet, but it has been earmarked for this project. The funds were intended to allow for previously unfunded park features to be completed. So these were items that were in the original overall project, but couldn't be completed in phase 1 because of lack of funding. Those items include a 2,000 square foot community center extension to the west side of the recently renovated community center, a third barbecue area, an amphitheater on the north side of the park, and adult exercise area. There was an engineering estimate that was provided to the city on June 13th of 2022. And it indicated that for us to include all of those items that were originally planned for this project, that the total cost would be $2.1 million, which is over the $1.7 million that was earmarked for this project. And this is in light of supply chain issues and
and cost increases that we've seen because of recent events. Since this is above the grant funding amount, we request, so I talked to the design consultants and let's look at various different configurations. Can we come up with a configuration that allows us to maximize the funding? So you see in the chart in the staff report that I put together, okay, what if we did all of them? That's the $2.1 million. If we just did the building, that total is 1.549 million. If you did, or if you did the building and the parking, well, what did that come up to? And that was over the grant amount, 1.75. And then what if you did the building and just the barbecue? And that came up at 1.7. So as you can see from this table, there's insufficient funding to proceed with anything more than just the building. Did the building and the barbecue contingency would throw that well over 1.7. Even if you proceed with just the building portion of this project, you're going to have less than 10% contingency during capital projects. I don't like having less than 15% contingency, but that's what it would be for this project. So it's not typically desirable to have less than 10% contingency for a project. So we had to consider several options. You know, what are different directions we can take with this? First, we reviewed the engineer's estimate to say, okay, can we pare down elements of the building itself? Can we make that building a little cheaper? But I went through line item by line item and didn't see any glaring item that could be removed. You can't remove the windows, you can't remove the doors. There was nothing like gold paved flooring that you could say, okay, that's an obvious way to shave costs. So since we didn't find any obvious ways to reduce costs, we then went on to consider, okay, what if we redesigned this project from a value engineering standpoint, taking into account, okay, here's the money you have, let's design it to the money that we have. The city would incur significant costs for redesign with absolutely no guarantee that that redesign would actually get us to our goal, which is a cheaper building. You know, the building might have already been value designed in the first place. So that would be just additional costs incurred for redesigning something with no real promise that the end of that project would be a cheaper building. Then we said, okay, well, at this point, it's not ideal. It probably makes no sense for us just to proceed with the intent to construct only the building and then proceed with the other elements if funding allows. So the recommendation, after considering all these options and all the information that was presented to us, is to put in an application for the multi-purpose building addition itself. And then do kind of an add alternate at the bottom. You know, not make any promises in the grant application that we can include the barbecue, the amphitheater, the parking, but have them as add alternates on the bid just in case there's extra money. Maybe the bids will come in low. And then when we bid the project, bid it with just the building as the base bid, and those other features as add alternates to be constructed if funds are available. I'm open to questions, but I really wanted to make sure we were all on the same page as far as expectations about what phase 2 would involve.
I think the parking lot we're talking about was resurfacing with
Correct.
pavement okay. And that's not a new parking lot, that's removing the decomposed granite or
Yeah,
putting it on top of it.
That's that parking lot that's on the west side. And if my memory serves me correctly, it's about $165,000 to do that.
And well, I'm gonna open it up to council person. Any comments, suggestions? No? My feeling is that the amphitheater was kind of third on a request, and we have 2 barbecue pits there, at least 3 barbecue pits, maybe 4. Separate ones, but we need the building built. So I think as inflation moves us into another couple of years, it's going to be more expensive. So my feeling is to go with just the building only. That's my feeling. Which is your recommendation?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. You good?
Yes.
You want a vote or you want consensus?
I just needed consensus. It was really important.
Antonio, I'm sorry, forgot you again.
Don't worry, I've been waiting. I was waving. Give me thumbs up.
To make sure that that we weren't all going into this expectation that everything that was missing out of the the project that you knew that we were looking at it from the ability of what we could pay for, so that we went in all with open eyes. Thank you, I appreciate it.
I think by default, you almost get your 15% contingency if you just went with the building then.
No, with just the building, it's still under,
Oh,
it's under,
Okay.
it's just under 10%. Bummer.
got it. Sorry.
Antonio, you yay, nay,
I consense.
you have a consensus?
I appreciate the input.
All right.
Pardon me. Bless you.
Item 12. Benita Pacifica land transfer,
Great, thank you.
okay?
So this is an interesting little dilemma I had. So, the recommendation is that city council deed a small portion of city property to 3 adjacent landowners. So in 1975, the city acquired a 0.31 acre parcel from the Bonita Pacifica Development. So we're driving down Pioneer Street, you'll see the sign, Bonita Pacifica, it's right by the bus stop, right there. That is a city parcel that is not used, and it is a strange shape. In fact, if you look at figure 1, it is the strange shaped parcel on the southeast corner of Second Street in Pioneer. So you see that it's wide at the north end and it tapers down to a point. And then what you'll see, I'll just look on the second part. So, interestingly, 3 property owners have requested that their properties who have access currently from Tognazini be able to gain access from Pioneer Street so that they can develop or improve their properties to include accessory dwelling units, otherwise known as ADUs. So one of them is a property that already has a house and they want to build it an ADU. And then the other 2 are completely undeveloped. And the property owners wish to build a primary structure with access to Tognazini and an ADU with access to Pioneer Street. And I've got a letter in here from the property owners, indicating their desire. So providing these property owners access to the ADUs from Pioneer Street allows for more efficient use of the property, because that way you don't have to build a driveway and therefore, taking up that space in order to do that. Given the city's interest in providing housing and the fact that all other infrastructure in the vicinity does actually support increased density in that area, city staff considered all the alternatives for accommodating this request. At first, we considered the option of an encroachment agreement where we maintain the property, but then we provide the property owner non-exclusive access over the property through an agreement. However, my friend Philip here recommended divesting the city of these small pieces of property altogether and deeding them to the individual property owners to reduce city liability. Or why do we have it if we're not going to be able to put it to use? Because if it were a driveway, then it's not going to be very useful to us from the standpoint of however we develop that parcel. So if you look at figure 3 on page 3 of 4, you'll see, you can see the 3 properties I'm speaking of. The third one at the very south end is so tiny, it's only 20 square feet. You can barely see it on this drawing. But I show a chart that provides the approximate area of each one of those pieces of property. The one to the furthest south is only 20 square feet. And then the other 2 are 300 and 700. So to proceed with this process, city staff would need to hire a surveyor to develop a legal description of the land to be deeded. And that we would pay for that out of the application fees for the lot line transfer, lot line adjustment. For the application for that, then we would record those deeds with the county after execution by the parties. And then we would recommend that the mayor be authorized to sign the land grant agreements on behalf of the city. So you have alternatives. One is you reject the recommendation to transfer the small portions of property to the 3 adjacent property owners. And you could also approve transferring the property to private owners, but require that an appraisal be performed and that the city properties pay for property they're receiving from the city. We don't recommend that option because of the high cost of the appraisal. And then the likelihood that due to the small sizes of the land to be transferred and the unsuitability for most purposes, that the value of the land is likely to be very little significant value except to the adjacent property owners. So the fiscal impact is if you deed these small portions of it otherwise pretty much unusable property for the city, it will reduce city liability and slightly reduce the city's cost to maintain that property. And then the fiscal impact to the property owners is a small increase in property taxes associated with the enlargement of their property.
You mentioned, there was a house on one of the properties,
Yes, the one to the further south.
the one 115-201. Is that where they built that ADU?
The property that built it was 115-201-004.
Okay, that's the one that just was built. There's a unit built.
Yeah,
They
already have access, correct? Yeah, they have a driveway.
I know, and so we worked with them on that encroachment
But there's
permit,
our east.
and he was so kind. I asked him about that tiny little 20 square feet and said,
Yeah.
it wouldn't make any sense for the city to own that little 20 square feet. So would you be kind enough to file a lot line adjustment application? And he said, yes. So I have an application from him for that lot line adjustment for this one. So yeah, does he need it to do that? No. But if you grant the other two, we would be left with this 20 square feet of property, which doesn't make any sense. So if we do the other two, we really do need to do that for the south one, even though you are correct, he has already built his ADU.
Thing is, that'd be the one you'd most likely want.
Yes.
we just found that 20 square feet for 20,000.
Oh, Belinda's there. She would go ahead and approve that. I had a request to put a dog park there. Just kidding.
And the thing is, I've been looking, I think since practically the day I started here, I've been looking at this piece of property and all of the various different opportunities that might come of that. And that area on the southern end really doesn't add to the value of the property. And if we can provide additional housing to the community through this land transfer, I think that's actually more useful to the city as well.
Now, how would that impact driveway, traffic? Chief?
Sorry.
There's a couple coming out that way.
I don't want to be a spoiler, but you can see where we have Hernandez right there, second, and Pioneer, we have the Main Street Market. That's pretty congested coming through there. And with the bus, it would be a challenge. But yeah, it's surmountable. I mean, we have other locations that have somewhat similar type of challenges, but if I don't know if we say either signage. I would recommend no parking
Yeah, there is no parking.
on that, what's the east side of the street. If you're gonna have something like that, so that way we keep it as clear as possible.
Mhm. Yeah, it can be busy right there, so.
Cause I know. Cause I live right down from there. And I know at times, the house, not the new one not the ADU that was just built, but the one right next door. They got a fence.
Right.
So they come, they gotta stop. They stop on the curb. Then they open the gate. And then they'll pull out and then they back in. And, sometimes then you got cars coming from off of Main Street. And coming out and then it kind of like, you get stuck.
There's no aspect that they just have access to that. There's no ADU. Is there an ADU back there? Is there?
There's a place right there.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
not
they
the
just
only
built-
property, is it? No,
I'm not sure, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because it's the one right next door to the one they just built.
right.
And they built, and what I like about that one is they built a nice wide driveway
Okay.
that you can put like 4 cars doubled up, maybe even 6, because it's so deep in there.
And I assume there's the access from Tacozini's. You'd have a driveway going all the way through the house.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want, if that were my property, wouldn't want a driveway going right next to my living room.
No.
Get to the back. One of the things too with ADUs is the parking issue. So if we have no parking along that side,
They can't.
yeah, then nobody can park there because that's kind of typical with Because there's no requirement to have any parking for ADUs. If you're within a certain amount of feet from the bus stop, and they are, so.
Yeah.
So I think some of the property owners are here. Linda, do you want to say anything? Are you mum?
Well, with regards to what you were just saying. 'cause I
Yeah,
pulled up-
wait till they get there.
Thank you. I pulled up a little map, on my phone here, so I can see the ADU that you were talking about. They actually have a pad where 2 cars can park right there, and then there's that fence. I know at least with my mom, I think with my cousin Trudy as well, they didn't have an intention of fencing it in. Cause they wanted to-
just built?
no, the one that was just built, that's, I think we're related to them through marriage, but.
Ruben?
I don't remember. My mom knows those a lot better.
yours is the next door one.
Yeah, theirs is the one that just got built,
Right.
that has it running through. I don't know what their intention as far as that go. I just know with my mom's lot and my aunt's lot. To my knowledge, my uncle's lot, which is the far north one, I don't think he has plans to develop on that. At least anytime soon. So just the 2 for Linda Lemus and Trudy. I forget her last name. Just kind of.
Oh, so that's the ones that aren't even developed.
Yeah, those are the ones that aren't developed. So I'm just commenting on that, they'd be looking at just driveways. Just because cost of build, trying to do fencing to close off parking, like having that sliding gate.
Yeah.
That's something I probably wouldn't recommend to my mom and my aunts to bother with. But being able to have like 2 spaces there, just like that
What-
one house currently has.
Yeah, this wide, I like it.
Yeah, it's nice and wide and you can pull 2 in right there. So I think that would probably be my recommendation to them to do the same. So that way we don't have that off-street parking issue to add to the congestion that's currently there.
What would be the ballpark on appraisal? I'm asking Shannon or Phil, ballpark on appraisal.
Okay, we did an appraisal on 287 Mahoney. When we were looking at that, buying the easement for the sewer line, which was a very valuable asset to the city, and it ended up being around $10 per square foot.
For an appraisal.
I think, no, for the appraisal.
Yeah.
Appraisal.
The last time I did an appraisal was $4,000.
Yeah. I know that Black Road, they did an appraisal on property and that was farmland, which is. Farmland's expensive. This isn't farmland. So. Any questions from staff or?
Oops.
$10 per square foot was what it added up to for the property on 287 Mahoney that had city property under it.
Yeah, I was just thinking the balance of this area. Has there been any discussion or plans about what to do with the remaining, the balance part of the park?
That has not been decided. It's been just discussed a lot, but.
Well, it should have been developed as a park. That's a nice neighborhood park. That's what the bus stop is.
The other,
On that
the
property.
other thing I was just thinking, throw it out there is, I don't know what the going rate is for a vacant piece of buildable already turnkey lot, but the city might be able to, if you wanted to, consider the idea of developing and be a developer and sell a couple lots and maybe get some cash flow to the
You're
city.
not gonna get much of a lot there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might be able to build a shed.
I'm just thinking, the size of it, it just looks kind of
It's kind of weird.
weird
Yeah,
shape.
that's-
What wish of the council? The staff is recommending that we authorize grant deeds on behalf of the city.
So
Let's
I'm
go
just
for it.
doing math here.
Okay.
$300,000.
So it's about 1,020 square feet,
For all,
$10 a square foot, that's $10,000. And then it's a 4,000 appraisal, that would be 6,000 roughly, then we'd be able to get something from,
if we sell.
if we were to sell, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just a little apprehensive to
To give.
to give, exactly, just
yeah.
because we have other property, other vacant properties and, you know, how, just to be fair to everybody, you know.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Prentice. But that's why,
Yeah.
that's why we offered it as an alternative, because that is your decision. Staff sees benefit in giving these 3 parcels away, but if other people north of there wanted, the recommendation would be different. Because the parcels are bigger and they're more valuable as a part of a larger common lot, but it was just a judgment call. I worked with Shannon on it, and we just felt that it was, our recommendation made more sense just to give these away, but I can see your point. That if you cross, I mean, if we give these away, what if the next person wants it, they're like, well, you gave them that, you
Right.
established a
Give it.
precedent.
Yeah.
But there's a unique set of circumstances here that I think we could justify, basically giving the property away. But if that we did offer it as an alternative because it's a fair point.
Okay, what do we,
So if we were to sell it, we have to get an appraisal on it. We have to get an appraisal for those parts, for it.
I'm not sure that it's a legal requirement, but it's probably, we want to be protected from any claims that we overcharge. Have a third party analyze it would probably be just good business practice.
But even if sat down and came to an agreement amongst the people who.
Well, I don't know the answer to that off the top of my. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head and what the rules of that are. I imagine that if they were agreeable to a price, it was negotiated at arm's length.
so we would pay for the appraisal.
Yeah, we would probably pay for the appraisal.
And I
I
understand
wouldn't think it cost that much for us to get an appraisal, then to have a ballpark.
I mean, we did have an appraisal of property that's similar. That was about $10, and if people accepted that $10 value and were willing to pay that. In exchange for the valuable right of access to Pioneer Street. And they agreed to voluntarily, I think that could possibly work. I could qualify that remark by saying if I later discovered something in my subsequent research. That there is a requirement for an appraisal, we could always come back and apprise you of that and take further action, but my gut tells me that it's probably okay if the parties agreed. That we wouldn't necessarily need to do the appraisal, but I certainly think doing appraisal is the wise thing to do because we'll get an independent third party's perspective on the value of the land. And it may actually be less because of the unusual shape and size. It may be a determination as worth $1 a square foot. Or nothing, because it can't be used for anything except for those parcels, so I don't know the answer.
Did we prompt this discussion with the owners? Or did the
Sorry?
owners?
I have
Prompt us.
spoken with, actually I've spoken with, one of the owners of the top 2,
Right,
and then the owner of the,
okay,
sorry,
but
second
who
one.
prompted this?
The owners of the 2 north properties.
Okay, so we didn't say, well. we'll
Oh,
write
no,
the-
no, this was not brought up by
I
us.
think it's, and I don't, and I'm not, these been vacant for years, century probably, if not longer. Is there, I don't think there's a mad rush to, I don't know, I'm gonna ask Belinda, is there plans to build on it right away, or do you know?
I think Trudy wants to build within a year. My mom might have a 2 to 5 year plan on it roughly.
I think I'm following the, I think a discussion in terms of let's at least appraise it to know what we're doing, and then if somebody else comes up and says you didn't go through the footwork. So what do you think, folks? Gentlemen?
So it kind of gives us about a year.
Well,
Right.
We kind of have a year to kind of
Well,
look at it, to kind of see more or
it
less.
wouldn't take that long.
No.
I got a question. What if you appraise it and then you're paying that money and then all of a sudden they don't wanna
Yeah.
accept it?
Shannon
then
just
so we're-
mentioned that there's no budget for that.
So
So
let's
You know what I'm
look and see how much appraisal is gonna cost. And then if it
Yeah.
doesn't, if it costs too
probably
much,
be about 4,000.
for
That's-
that piece of
It
property.
cost me $4,000 to appraise 287 the home.
You were on a lot, but you were.
Yeah, this is a non-buildable lot, so it might be less, but maybe they could give you a thumbnail amount.
Yeah, let's ask for a thumbnail, just to say, okay, this is what it's gonna cost you if I came out here and did it.
What about getting to an agreement with the property owners and the city?
The same thing.
Like I said, sorry, I don't know how come this isn't working. Thank you. I'm certainly happy to look and see if we can do an arm's length without an appraisal. And it may be perfectly fine. I just don't know the answer off the top of my head. So obviously, I don't think you're ready to make the decision on this tonight. So I think we should just plan on bringing it back. We may still want to recommend that we granting the smallest parcel, because that person has already got their benefit. And we definitely don't want to get stuck with that little sliver, and they're going to be having to incur an expense to do a lot line adjustment. So I think our recommendation for that one may be the same regardless of the other two. I think there's definitely a case to be made that one should just be given away.
My opinion would just do the three, just to cover all bases, maybe nothing, but good. Gil.
No.
Well, I mean, I believe, it's so oddly shaped. Even for, say, for development purposes, maybe an agreement with the, later in the future, what we decide here, but as far as the approach to it, wide enough to have not just a single car approach, but maybe a double, so you can have that access parking smoother with less congestion from the thoroughfare, as far as the approach, of course, it's not a single, but maybe some sort of agreement with the actual owners.
Just sort of giving me an idea, it's unusual to do a development agreement for such a small little property, but that way we could possibly, in exchange for giving the land, obtain a condition that they'll provide off-street parking for the ADUs, which is not something we can impose under law. But you can put no parking. But if they're, the chief and I was saying that we could come back to you at a later time and make a finding that, actually, we don't even need to make a finding. You have the ability to prevent parking on just about any street that you want. You could prohibit parking on that street at later action if you wanted. That would be an option as well. But the thought occurred to me that if in a development agreement, it's like a contract. We would say, okay, you're going to build a house in an ADU. We can't impose parking for the ADU off-site as a condition of the granting, but we're willing to give you the property to allow you to build the ADU with access to Pioneer Street if you agree to build a couple of off-street parking spots to reduce any potential impacts. That's something we could explore. And it might, like I say, it's worth it. That property may be almost worth nothing after we get an appraisal or a rough assessment of what you call it, a thumbnail sketch of the price or whatever. It may be like it's just really not worth selling, but it's very valuable to them. But then having them provide off-street parking would be very valuable to the city. So we may be able to work out an arrangement. That's an interesting.
I think you might have.
Oh, I missed it.
Misconstrued that. It's making at Shannon, making the approach wide enough where you have access for say, that ADU that needs access to the back. Big enough, wide enough as far as the actual wings and approach of the sidewalk. So you don't have a single where there's a buildup of just one, but you have a smoother transition into that lot. Did you see what I'm?
So are you asking that the drive approach be wider than the standard driveway?
Well, for a two-car per se, because if it's an ADU, I mean, I don't know how many vehicles they would need for that rear access ADU, but would two be sufficient?
So basically a driveway that is the width of two cars instead of one.
Correct.
Okay, if we can take that idea and build it onto Philip's suggestion of a development agreement, that way the city is getting, because ordinarily an ADU is only a ministerial, which provides us very few, we have very little that we can do when it comes to an ADU. But if we can exchange the land for some of those requirements, then the city is getting a valuable benefit from the transfer of that land. And yeah, the double wide as well as the off-street parking.
And I was, again, I would call informally to see what it would cost to do an appraisal on this.
Yeah, let me just see the cost. What about, I'm just thinking some type of an agreement for a benefit for the city since we're giving away property. Sort of like a transaction. Some type, we have needs across the street at the school that maybe these owners can help with. In return of the trade-off sort of.
That's what I was getting at with the development agreement.
Yeah,
That would be the way, that's the benefit agreement you're talking about. That's the purpose of those. You are able to ask an applicant for something that you can't impose under the law. And they get something in return that's valuable to them. That's why those are allowed under the law.
I think the genie's coming out of the box, or the whatever they call it, the lantern, is that if you start looking at two cars coming out of 3 lots, that there's quite a bit of traffic in there. Anyway, I think if we can look at an appraisal, look at a development agreement, and see how far that goes. And Chief, I'd like you to take a look at that, if you don't mind, just to see what kind of traffic issue we would have.
Okay.
Because that is a very busy, there's a stop sign right there, but it's, I don't know, I think that it needs to look, you need to look at it from a traffic perspective. If we look at the appraisal, look at a development agreement.
Okay, and if I may, I would still like to proceed with that southern 20. If you would be willing to consider that.
I'm sorry.
That's smaller.
Lot line adjustment.
The 20 square feet.
Very south.
for his lot line adjustment, I think that one.
Yeah, that's only,
It's 20 square feet. It is so tiny and absolutely useless to the city.
you need a. go ahead.
I was just thinking, are we bound by the actual cost of putting the paperwork together then for the benefit of them, or are they bound by that?
There is a lot line adjustment application fee that goes with it and costs can be pulled out of that.
Okay, do you have direction?
Yes, but I'm going to repeat it for my sake and Amelia's.
Okay.
Okay. You would like to see me get a quote for an appraisal, so that we know how much an appraisal will cost. You would like me to consider the drafting of a development agreement idea that would be the transfer of the land for the 2 northern properties in exchange for a double wide drive approach as well as off-street parking. And you would like traffic looked at in the area, just from an overall perspective. And if I understood correctly, I'm okay with proceeding with the land transfer for the southern property.
The 250,
Did I
yeah,
miss anything?
not to me, sounds good.
Would like a motion for the approval to transfer the sliver, I guess, the portion of land that's on 115-201-004.
Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll motion.
Go ahead.
I'll motion to do the sliver of 115-201-004 of the 20 square feet.
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Is that Tony?
Tony, yeah.
Thank you, Antonio. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Thank you. I really appreciate the discussion on it.
Yeah. Put the lot line, it'll.
Shannon, I'm gonna send you an email to make sure. I think I got it all.
And then we annexed 200 acres and we're just talking.
Yeah, right. In one swoop.
All right.
So 30,000 acres, that's the. 1,000 square feet. Oh, man.
Item 13, City Hall structural assessment.
Right, are you tired of listening to me yet? Right, council, so I'm looking for more guidance. It was just full of.
Adam, by the way, the auditorium looks good. Good job. Sorry.
Right, so I'm asking for guidance from the council to city staff on the funding and schedule to address city hall structural deficiencies. As many of you know, the current city hall here was originally built in 1930 as a school. Since then, it served many purposes, most recently as our city hall. The need to address a leaking roof prompted city staff to commission a structural assessment of the building so that structural deficiencies that were identified could be coordinated with the roof replacement and that they be completed at the same time for cost efficiency, and then to ensure that this building will serve the long-term needs of the community. An additional purpose of the structural assessment was to develop a comprehensive plan to address all deficiencies, structural deficiencies, to understand what that budget would be. So we hired Ashley Advanced Engineering Incorporated to perform the structural assessment, and that's included in your packet. They completed that draft report on July 13th and met with city staff on July 14th to discuss the results of the assessment and options for addressing deficiencies. They provided me a final report on August 31st, taking into consideration input from city staff. Attachment 1 is the final report. Attachment 2 is an addendum to that report that was prepared to evaluate the additional costs if we were to phase repairs reflecting available funding. Okay, so if we were to address all deficiencies identified in the assessment, the total cost is $1.9 million in change. So we have $554,000 in ARPA funding that was earmarked for this project that must be spent by December 31st, 2024. So we don't have sufficient funds at this time to complete all the identified work. We are anticipating receiving approximately $1.8 million in development fees from Pasadena, which is earmarked to the City Hall building once the final tentative track map south of the railroad is approved. So it's $1.5 million plus 2% interest since 2015. It's currently estimated to occur in 2027. As you know from our previous agenda item, they're making nicer progress on that. So they've got, I think, 2 more tentative maps to work through. And the consultant evaluated the increase in costs associated with phasing the work to align with the funding availability and determines that if we were to defer some of the work to a later date, it would cost us an additional $374,000. So that increases the total cost of the project to $2.3 million. And we added an additional $60,000 to pay for plans and specs for the second phase of the work. All right, so staff originally evaluated the cost of pursuing all the roof work and then deferring the wall and floor repairs to a later date. So there's funding and project schedule plan, which is alternative 1 of attachment 3. Unfortunately, even when we redirect funds from some other already budgeted projects, such as funds from things that aren't even mine to take, the City Hall generator, the Betts Hall wood repair, the facilities master plan, we're still underfunded by $327,000. So then staff evaluated the cost for completing the work only for the main hall in the auditorium, which is approximately 65% of the total roof area, and then deferring the work on the remainder of the roof for when the other work on structural is done. And that's shown as alternative 2 of attachment 3. There are possibly adequate funds to pursue this one, but still require that the Betts Hall wood repair and the facilities master plan funding be redirected for this project. And these were items that were already approved in this fiscal year's budget. So work on the walls and floor and remainder of the roof, if alternative 2 is selected, can be planned for when Pasadena City Hall funding is expected, currently 2027. So that funding will be available to the city at the approval of the final tentative map south of the railroad. Once that funding is available, there will be sufficient funding to pay for, I'll say, most of the remaining work. Options available for the city after evaluating all those other options and trying to see if we can make something work. Pursuing alternative 2 of attachment 3 by redirecting funds from Betts Hall wood repair and facilities master plan to complete 65% of the roof now, and then do the rest of the work that we have funding for upon receipt of the relevant Pasadena development fees. One of the other things you could possibly consider is completing approximately $270,000 in immediate roof leakage and rot repairs now, and then defer all the rest of the work until receipt of those Pasadena development fees. That gives you the ability to redirect approximately $284,000 in ARPA funds to other projects. And there is a suggested list of those potential projects in attachment 4. One of them happens to be the parking area on the west side of Leroy Park, and also painting of the exterior of this building. We have to wait another 5 years for work to be done. Maybe we want to paint the outside in the meantime, but that $284,000 can go towards some of those other projects while we wait for those development fees to come in. Staff also evaluated the option of pursuing all the repairs immediately and bonding for the needed funding. But we spoke with the fiduciary agent, and we determined the city would not be able to cover the payments necessary until the Pasadena funding comes in. And in addition, cannot risk the possibility that that funding might be delayed. So we considered it, we tried really hard to make that work, but weren't able to figure out how. So at this point, I really need direction. We do have a little bit of money, you know, we've got this $500,000. What do you want me to do with it? Do you want me to get as much of the roof done as I can with that and then defer the rest? Or do you want me to say, okay, you know what, defer the whole darn thing, do some roof repairs and maybe do some, I don't know, cosmetic and that parking lot at Leroy Park and pursue that stuff instead. And then do this structural work all at once when the Pasadena big chunk of money comes in.
But with that big chunk of money from Pasadena, is everything still gonna be around the same ballpark, or is it gonna go up?
Prices.
That was the extra 326,000. Now that's if you look at attachment 2, which is the addendum that the structural engineer put together to say, if you leave off that work until later, it's gonna cost you an extra $300,000. That's why we tried bonding it. to
Yeah, we
see,
looked at that.
if, you know, the bonding would be cheaper than that 300,000, but they're not gonna touch this project for bonding. Because we'd have to come up with about
$150,000 a year per payment.
and annual payments that we just won't have. So that's why we tried.
We
really
tried
to
even
make that
talking
work.
about 10 years out without a principal and interest payment,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't do it.
No. There's no kind of grants to help with that kind of repair.
I haven't found one.
No.
The only thing I can say is that grants typically will be they go to a place like fire and police, but not typically city hall facilities, so you could get portions of it possibly, but we'd have to look into that. But they
So
don't
with-
give grants for administration or finance parts of the
So
building.
with what you just said though, Todd, this houses our police department. Could there be a grant to get
We'd have,
funding to help with the roof? On
Yeah.
on that side, and then with the fire department here?
well, we could look into those grants, because Shannon's only talking about fixing roof leaks in this interior section anyway, right, Shannon?
No, if we did the roof leaks, if we were to do just repairs.
Yeah.
With that 270,000, it would be repaired for the whole,
The whole,
but it's just repairs. It is not replacement. And it's not doing the structural portion of the roof.
It's just a patch.
It's just patching it.
And I'd hate to see that because a lot of times with the patch, another leak starts somewhere else. I've seen it at the school with some of the portables they have. Our maintenance guy goes through, he'll patch up where there's a leak. Next thing you know, there's another leak somewhere else in that same room.
Even when I appreciate that observation, even when I narrow this project down to just this main hall in the auditorium, it's 65% of the project. I still have to, steal is the wrong word, redirect funds from, Fund 76 and the facilities master plan, which I know is something that we really do want to move forward with. But I have to pull it over to this project in order to even get that roof replacement for only that portion of the project.
Can I ask you? Saturday, we had that nice little bit of rain in the morning,
Mhm.
how much of that leaked in through the existing leaks now?
I'm not sure,
It's raining than.
because it was warm. And by the time everybody came in on Monday, whatever might have leaked was evaporated. So
Yeah.
we didn't observe any because we weren't here.
I mean, when we have a heavy pour, we'll see the puddles.
But yeah, we have buckets.
Yeah. there's a lot of water coming in. Antonio, you got any comments?
I was kind of doing the math over here, and I think the one where the second bullet point of options available, honestly, I think that's probably the best bet for us right there. The complete approximately 270 in immediate roof leakage and rot repairs now.
I agree, because then it picks up on these other items that we have in the queue. Any comments? That's what I agree, but any other comments? From the council? So you have a motion to that effect? Antonio?
Well, it's just guidance though, right? So we just need one other person to.
I just needed guidance, so I knew how to move
Pursue it.
forward.
You're gonna.
Want a motion?
Thank you.
Want a motion?
I would love
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll make a motion.
because there's money being,
Yeah.
should, yeah.
So then I will motion to go with option 2, which is, let me read it out. Complete approximately 270,000 in immediate roof repair and rot leakage, and defer the rest of the work, and redirect approximately 284 in ARPA to other projects based off of the suggested list in attachment 4.
Is there a second?
Can buy you 5 years. 10 years.
Like, I wish we could just repair the whole thing.
Yeah.
You can repair. This is repairs for the whole thing. It's just not a.
Sorry. There we go, replace.
I feel your pain.
Yeah.
When I saw the numbers, I'm saddened, that we don't quite have enough, and that's why.
I could say something that professional groups that come in and they roll back the roof enough to know they're gonna be covering, it's not like they're just kind of.
Yeah,
Usually those
they're-
repairs are pretty
Yeah,
well,
they're pretty stout.
they're pretty stout, yeah, that's
There's a
all.
motion, is there a second?
I will second.
There's a motion, a second, any discussion? Let's do roll call. Wake you up.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Member Cardenas,
Aye.
Councilmember Costa Junior,
But I.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Mayor Julian.
Aye, all ayes, thank you, Shannon.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you.
Okay.
I know it has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those.
It's going to rain, yeah.
270, so.
Yeah.
Placing.
Okay,
Don't feel I'm against you, Shannon.
item 50, reclassification. No, I'm sorry, feasibility of establishing city public safety department impact fee nexus. Chief,
Thank you, sir.
does anyone need a quick break or are we good?
I'm good,
Everybody good? Okay,
You don't need me.
I'm good.
good.
Yeah, did you want to take a break?
No, good.
I'm just gonna-
The subject is an informational report from public safety staff on the feasibility of establishing a City of Guadalupe Public Safety Department Impact Fee Nexus Study. Development impact fees, a monetary extraction or exaction other than tax or special assessment that is charged by a local governmental agency to an applicant in connection with approval of development project for the purpose of defraying all or a portion of the cost of public facilities related to the development project. Legal requirements for the enactment of a development impact fee program are set forth in government code 66,000 and 66025, the Mitigation Fee Act, the bulk of which was adopted as 1987's AB 1600. Thus are commonly referred to as AB 1600 requirements. A development impact fee is not a tax or special assessment by its definition, The fee must be related to the impacts created by development or reasonably related to the cost of the service provided by the local agency. If a development impact fee does not relate to the impact created by development or exceeds the reasonable cost of providing the public service, then the fee may be declared a special tax and must be subject to a 2/3 voter approval. Guadalupe Public Safety Department provides first responder life safety protection services throughout the city. Specifically, the department's services include police, fire protection, prevention, detection, investigation, suppression, emergency medical response, rescue, and hazardous material response. Currently, the city does not have a formal adopted public safety impact fee process for new single-family housing, multifamily housing, retail, commercial, office, and industrial development respectively. If authorized by the city council, a public safety impact fee nexus study will be prepared pursuant to the Mitigation Fee Act as found in Government Code 66,000. The purpose of this nexus study is to establish the legal and policy basis for the collection of new public safety impact fees on new residential and non-residential development within the department's service area. As growth occurs, public safety impact fee revenue will be used to expand the department's police and fire protection facilities, apparatus, and equipment so the department can maintain its existing level of service. The act does not allow for the fee revenue to be used for department staffing, maintenance, or other operational costs. In order to impose such fees, this nexus study will demonstrate that a reasonable relationship or nexus exists between new development that occurs within a department service area and the need for public safety protection, facilities, apparatus, and equipment as a result of new development. More specifically, this nexus study will present findings in order to meet the procedural requirements of the Mitigation Fee Act, also known as AB 160, which are as follows: 1, identify the purpose of the fee; 2, identify the use to which the fee is to be put; 3, determine how there's a reasonable relationship between the fee's use and the type of development project on which the fee is imposed, i.e. benefit relationship; 4, determine how there's a reasonable relationship between the need for the public safety facilities and the type of development projects on which the fee is imposed; 5, determine how there's a reasonable relationship between the amount of the fee and the cost of facilities or portion of the facilities attributed to the development on which the fee is imposed. To determine the department's public safety impact fees consistent with these procedural requirements, this nexus study utilized an existing facility standard methodology. Under this method, department's ratio of existing public safety protection, facilities, apparatus, and equipment to existing development establishes the standard for determining new development's fair share of the cost to expand the department's public safety system as growth occurs. Existing development is determined based on the assumption that 50% of the need and demand for public safety or for public safety service and associated facilities, apparatus, equipment is related to the person, residents, or employees, and the other 50% of the need is related to the structural area, living, non-residential building in which they live or work. The value of the department's existing public safety system is determined using the replacement value of the department's existing inventory of public safety protection facilities, apparatus, and equipment. These costs are then applied to 4 land use categories in proportion to the need they create for public safety protection and emergency response services. Staff is recommending that funding for the nexus study come from the Public Safety Department's restricted funds 40 and 42, i.e. Proposition 172 funding. Recommendation is recommended that the City Council receive this presentation, accept, close public comments, deliberate, direct staff to select the vendor if they so choose and continue to another council meeting. In bringing this information to council, we would like to know if you have a desire for the Public Safety Department to select a vendor and complete an impact fee nexus study. And as an example, we looked at the Santa Barbara County Fire Department. They had selected a consulting group to complete their fire impact fee nexus study in 2014. Their previous fees from 1996 were for residential development. It was 10 cents per square foot for a single family, and for commercial, it was 10 cents per square foot. when they reevaluated it and did their 214 study. The single family was 59 cents per square foot, and for commercial retail went up to 77 cents per square foot. The city of Santa Maria implemented a growth mitigation fee program within their municipal code. And they had separate fees for fire and police. So the police residential single family mitigation fees were 34 cents per square foot, and commercial was 27 cents per square foot. For fire in the city of Santa Maria, it was 49 cents per square foot for single family, 70 cents per square foot for commercial. Staff is looking forward to an informed discussion with council along with input from the public as well as other departments. Fiscal impact, the cost and impact fee nexus study would be between $25,000 to $50,000. This would be paid through Proposition 172 funding. During the budget process, these funds from Proposition 172 were not going to be spent, and no expenditures were budgeted from these funds, Fund 40 and 42 this fiscal year. These funds were to be saved and used to purchase public safety equipment, i.e. vehicles or fire trucks. In subsequent years, however, staff is requesting approval to use these funds for the impact fee nexus study and amend the budget for funds 40 and 42. With that report, we're the only city in Santa Barbara County that do not have impact fees for public safety. And as we just got through talking a few minutes ago about structural change, this is exactly where those funds would be able to assist. So with that, that's my report.
So.
Be
I
professional.
have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this for only new development or is it also
New.
for existing?
New.
Just. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's because it's to go with the new development to, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, go
that's
ahead.
the
Go ahead.
business side, and I do appreciate that. Continue.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the new development, so there's an impact to the growth, because of the growth of the city, there's more need for services.
Additional service.
So there's this, that's why they call it an impact study for the new growth and the new expansion needs that the new service delivery is going to be required for this new growth.
And to kind of piggyback on that, one of our. Well, they're listening, so I'm not saying names because I know that they're paying attention to this. We had through fire, with the permitting, we always attach as far as what it's going to take for fire and police services, but everyone balks because it says you do not have an ordinance, so you can't enforce it. With this one individual who was going to do some building, he at least told me, he says he knows at least 20 or so projects that are in the pipeline years down the road that we've been leaving a lot of money on the table.
Does this apply to ADUs as well?
Well, can I answer? Or
Sure.
This is just, this particular fund is going to pay for his area.
Right.
I would love.
But
No, no, she's saying-
is it gonna be, if somebody builds a 700 square foot
Oh,
ADU?
yeah, I would think so.
No, the answer.
No, oh, no,
sorry.
that's state law that won't allow
The
that.
answer is no. The answer is no.
Yeah.
We can't charge any impact fees for ADUs.
But any single family home or a new development or,
Retail,
Yeah.
commercial.
Apartments.
What about an
Apartments.
extension, like?
an
house?
addition, yeah, I
An
would think
addition.
so. Any kind of an addition, a garage, any of that would probably.
I don't know. I don't know myself.
I would just take, I would disagree slightly with the chief that while it's true, we don't have a growth mitigation impact fee, we can impose fees if there's going to be an impact on a development as a condition of approval. I wouldn't say that we've been very good at that. There haven't been a lot of big projects that have come that would have been granted an opportunity. You're not going to do that for a single family house or, that kind of thing. But we certainly can impose it as a condition of approval, and the council can, it just has to have that reasonable relationship.
Nexus.
Nexus, it has to be rationally related to or reasonably related to the impact. We can't just have a flat fee for public safety impacts for any project unless we do this study. And
To support it.
and unfortunately, when I first saw this report, I suggested to Todd that, well, why don't we just open it up for everything? Because
That'd
if
be
we're gonna
great.
study it for public safety, there's also City Hall, corporate yard, traffic impacts that we could get money for. But we don't have funding for that study. Fortunately, the chief has, funding at least to do that portion of it.
And just so there's an example, the last one that I found was the Fund 76 that we're using now. That was just negotiated with Escalante Meadows and Chief Hobing. He went and he did that negotiation when we didn't have this. So thank goodness that we had those funds to be able to do some of the things that we're doing now.
In your, it says receive presentation from staff, accept public comment, close public comment. It's not technically
Oh, it's not. a
no,
public
it's not a
hearing.
public hearing.
Yeah.
We're just to ask any public members wish to speak. None. Okay. Okay.
I'm just thinking the only real development that this would apply to is the new Pasadena. Would that even apply?
Well, those were already negotiated.
So
Yeah, I know.
So this will be anything after.
Yeah.
For the future.
Yeah, but for that.
There's a lot of apartments that are
Right.
coming
Yeah.
online.
Yeah, there's some new possibilities.
And I don't know, I think we're too late for the processing plant.
No, it's in the process right now. That's
But-
being negotiated. This actual report,
Will take a while.
how long does that take?
That I don't
Okay,
know.
yeah.
If Phil would know.
No,
no,
we gotta start somewhere, so.
Right.
I think you're
Give us a
investing,
start.
you're investing 25 to 50 for in perpetuity a return on whatever new
Right.
large developments you're gonna get over the years.
right, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, it's like the investment and. Is there positive, like, will there be a positive? I think we'll probably break even,
Well, I mean, for the next 100 years, you could be,
right?
you'd be seeing,
Long term.
yeah.
Well, there is a 10-year, you have to do a recalculation every 10 years, there's a
But if
way
you-
to do
Yeah,
that.
But if you did get a significantly, like a very expensive project, redevelopment area, that could be huge dollars with this up in.
Right.
Yeah, if there's a chance, it's unlikely unless there's policy changes about an annexation. I mean, Guadalupe is sort of landlocked. It is possible maybe that someday there could be some request, and then this would pay dividends in that case, but. You're right, the development is relatively, it's sort of like we're closing the barn door after the horses have already left.
Right.
I suppose we can't do it in the 18-acre commercial part of Pasadena.
Okay, wishes the council. I would support this. I think that everybody's complaining, why didn't you have impact fees for this public service side of things? So, I know that maybe we'll get $2 out of this whole thing, but and we don't have, you have the money for it, so it's not coming out of the general fund.
Yes, sir.
And I agree with Mayor and Julian. We gotta start preparing for the future. And eventually, some of us are still gonna be around a little bit. Some of us will leave our seats and, other things, but at least we'll have something flowing for the years to come of councils to have something that's already been established. Because I could see our city still having land to develop and grow to as we go forward.
Yeah, we have infill, we have other things that.
You could totally
Like you
redevelop
said,
that.
it might be worth doing just for the downtown economic development that's gonna be spurred by the Royal Theater and Right. some of the other stuff that you guys got going, so that I don't make policy, but I think that alone may justify the cost of the study. Let's see, it's like, what do you want from us, chief?
One direction to move forward,
Okay.
try to find a vendor and to get the study and to be able to bring that back to
Bring it back to
council.
us, okay. What's the consensus of the council? Robert?
I support it.
Same, I support it as well.
I think this is long term.
Okay. I do too. So is that enough, Phil? Yes, I don't think I'm just wondering if, I think we have to bring the staff report says direct staff to select the vendor and complete the study
and return to council when the study is ready, but I think you still have to award the bid, so I'd like to correct that. When there has to be a request for it's good. Wait, no, this is within the 50,000.
Yeah, it's
authority. Okay, assuming it was within the authority, then that won't be necessary. We could, I'm sorry, I forgot the amount that,
25 to 50,000.
so, I think a motion is appropriate, rather than consensus, because there's a number of items. I would just ask for a motion. I think that's the best way to go.
Is there, okay, your motion, well, our motion is gonna mention what? Move forward with the Nexus study. Vendor,
What to speak, right?
you have to seek a vendor,
I motion for Chief Cash
the recommendations, yeah.
to seek a vendor to do the Nexus study.
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All ayes. Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Item 15. Reclassification of human resource manager position.
Gotta follow purchase.
No, I mean, yeah.
Amelia.
Yeah.
Intern human resource.
Amelia or Todd, but Amelia.
Oh, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I saw.
In addition to what.
No, I'm not. Yeah, it's just. Important stuff.
Unless you're going to.
You have to get at least 3 quotes. I know that. Oh, thank you.
Oh, sorry. I don't know.
Okay. Do you want to look at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me give you, Tony, excuse me, Councilmember Ramirez, I handed out something when I get to it. In your packet, it is unrepresented positions, and I added a couple lines on the bottom, and I'll explain what that is. I apologize for not getting into it. A brief history on the HR position and function here at the city. Back prior to, is it okay if I sit here?
Yes.
Thank you. Prior to summer of 2006, there was no dedicated HR position, function, department, or anything at all like that. You can probably say there was a quasi personnel tasks and duties scattered through various employees of the city. The city administrator at that time in summer of 2006 developed a temporary HR function, and it was primarily project-based to last about 90 days to clean up some issues here. And that position, it was part-time, that position turned into a regular part-time position in March of 2007. There was a job description developed with corresponding salary range. Both of those descriptions and the salary range was approved by the city council at that time. Then in the fall of 2012, there was an interim city administrator, and that individual went through some very extensive cost cutting to save the city dollars, a budget issue. And one of the effects of that cost cutting was the cutting of the HR function, specifically the salary range, and it was cut by 30%. So it's been about 10 years, coming up on 10 years almost to the day, where the salary range has not been looked at. The reason we're bringing it forward today, and just to clarify, this is a reclassification. By definition, a reclassification does not have to change the duties and responsibilities of the position. There are a variety of other outside factors that justify a reclassification, one of which is the change in the salary range as it relates to the current labor market. So that's why we're bringing it forward today. As everyone knows, there's a vacant HR manager position, and Todd started recruiting for that back in March. And the focus was accelerated in May. And I've been in the position as an interim HR manager, continuing that recruitment, and we're coming up on the tail end of that.
And in order, one thing I discussed with Todd, in order to get a qualified individual for this position, and remember, it's a single incumbent position. One person is the whole department and handles all the different aspects of and the disciplines, as I call them, that fall under the umbrella of HR. And I have two attachments in addition to the resolution. One is the comparison that I did with cities in Central Coast. Our labor market here is Central Coast, and that could go up to the cities on the Central Coast. That could go up as far as King City and maybe as far down south as certainly Santa Barbara, maybe Carpinteria. Depending on the position, it could go down to Ventura and east to Bakersfield, Fresno, parts of San Joaquin Valley. So what I did is I looked at the Central Coast, and you can't compare a title to another title. Obviously, we can't compare HR manager here in Guadalupe to Santa Maria, to Santa Barbara, to Paso, etc. Even. And so I looked at the various HR positions at the varying levels at these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cities. And one thing that needs to be made, and it's an important point that it's important to me, is that some of these positions here are called whatever they're called. They report to a senior HR person. And that makes the requirements for that lower level position much less than what's required here. As we all know, HR reports to city administrator. And there's a whole different dynamic involved with that. And what was interesting to me is I knew that we were low in our salary range. I mean, obviously that's why we were proposing this reclassification. But to my surprise, River Beach was lower than we were.
The secondary, or no, or the,
No, this is
that was the top.
yeah, this is the top person, but she also does management. She's also management analyst as well. And just general information, she's retiring soon. The person in the usual person Marvin is retiring soon. They're trying to hire a part-time HR manager in Sullivan. So the Central Coast is looking for qualified HR people. In order to get the most appropriate, in my opinion, qualified individual, you need somewhat of a generalist, that you've had exposure to the different disciplines of HR with some strong experience in a good handful of those disciplines. To get that type of person, you need to go look at the salary range. Our current salary range wouldn't attract those individuals at all. We have, I've screened, I think, 7 HR candidates, and we did go through interviews last week. As I said, we're on the tail end of this process. And just to clarify, we're not recommending the change in the salary range, bumping at 6%, because we have a candidate who justifies that particular salary level. I've talked to Todd about this before, a couple years ago, and the timing, it just never came up. It was okay for all this length of time, but this sort of hit us in the face when we started recruiting. And so what I also wanted to have you look at is the different unrepresented positions that we have here in the city. And unrepresented simply meaning that there's no tie to any of the things that we have. Tony, on the bottom of that attachment, do you have that? It says unrepresented positions.
Attachment 3.
Attachment.
Yeah.
What I handed out here was the proposed change in the salary range. And really what you need to look at is look at HR, the very bottom, and look at step 2, okay? And put
Step B, you mean? Is that
step B.
step B? Okay.
And if you put maybe 1% on top of that, and then move the top step L2 another 6%, that's the whole range. So we're proposing that the minimum be $33.53, which is an annual amount of $69,700 to a max of $93,465. And the reason for the move is to allow someone who's qualified to come into the salary range and not have to push them clear up to the top. So there's no room for any growth. Obviously, we want to hire someone who's going to stay here a while. And we need a particular salary level, salary range that will justify that. I would have liked to have gone 10%, but 6% after 10 years is a very conservative thing to do. So, that's the report. Are there any questions? Do you want to add anything, Todd?
No, I just wanted to say that, you know, in the management level, I think it's just good to sort of incrementally look at the management team in terms of their compensation.
Any comments from the council or other staff?
The person you're looking at is Amelia, she's coming back.
I actually, Amelia's out of our price range. So she can't.
No, I think that's good on looking at this and trying to get, you know, because we've been without we had Amelia coming in, but you know, the people no longer here. You know, it's kind of hard for Amelia to enjoy her retirement. You know, because you know she's filling in at times, but I would agree with what you guys are asking, my guess.
One thing I did mention, excuse me, Todd, was the piece that's very important, that's the fiscal impact.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that I'm temporary and I, as a retired annuitant, I cannot receive any benefits of any kind for CalPERS, even sick leave that the state gives to temp employees. There's clearly a cost savings for this fiscal year. And I did a quick estimate as far as if we hired at this level and we put on 45% benefits, which is a pretty good, 45 to 50%. If you took benefit costs, that also includes the CalPERS and the interim costs for myself. There is a cost savings. We would look at hiring somebody ideally October 1st. And so run that through the rest of this year. And looking at salary level of $7,065 a month. And looking at the cost for me, if I stayed on an additional month to train the individual, hopefully training isn't necessary, to rather go to an orientation process with this person. It roughly comes to about 106,000. According to Lorena, the position was budgeted, total comp is 115,864. So quick math, there's a savings of about 9,600.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that I think, you know, as I work with Miko and then Amelia and the city attorney, it's a very complex job, more than one would probably realize. And I think because of the nuances in it, there's also legal implications. And if we don't do things right, it could cost us a lot of money. And I'm not trying to say that just to get this little bump, but I just wanted to point out that there's more to this than meets the eye as it relates to human resources.
Okay, this is what I wish of the council, resolution number 2022-83 for approval.
I motion to approve 2022-83 for approval.
Is there a second?
We lose him.
Antonio, are we waiting?
I'm here, but I'm even when I'm gone, y'all don't second. So yes, I will second.
Although, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ramirez,
Aye.
Councilmember Cardenas,
Aye.
Councilmember Costa Junior,
Aye.
Councilmember Robles.
Aye.
Mayor Jillian.
Aye, all ayes. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you. Good job. Item 16, denial of unsuccessful candidates for commercial cannabis business, CCB permits. Todd,
Don't think I'm trying to pass the buck here, but I'm gonna pass the buck.
okay.
He's definitely passing the buck. So.
Okay.
I help staff report, so
It's complicated.
it's really not that complicated. I mean,
No, it's not.
it is because of the nature of the cannabis.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The whole process has been a complicated one. And technically, the ordinance Guadalupe Code, section 922.141 says the city council shall either deny or approve the final candidates and so shall elect the top candidates in each category. This ordinance again was written with kind of a different intention. It was provided with the option to basically have candidates didn't qualify, didn't make the cut, and that they would be denied, and then they would be the top candidates would be selected. And at that time, you would either approve or deny. We didn't do that because, as you recall, there was only one selected at the first meeting when you selected that there would be two. So we kind of didn't deny the other ones because we weren't really sure what was going to happen. And then that process played out. And even though we knew that Urban Joy and Mr. Nice Guy were not going to be successful, most likely, out of an abundance of caution, we did not want to make that assumption. And so we waited until the council made its second selection before taking the action to deny the applications as is required by the municipal code. And when I say we're taking that action, I mean, we're recommending that you take that action. So forgive me for misspeaking. It's a little bit late. So that's what we're here to do. The second aspect, the second thing staff is asking to be done is the creation of an eligibility list. We're not asking you to we want to bring that back to you with the criteria, because there's options. You can have them in a ranked order or just have a pool and you can choose whatever one. There's some other things that we can throw in. We want to give you some options as to the criteria for the eligibility list, but we do think that establishing an eligibility list is a good idea because we don't want to go through this process again, I assume, if one of the two selected applicants, for whatever reason, is unable to complete the remainder of the requirements to get the commercial cannabis business license actually issued. Our consultant told us a couple of stories where like they had everything lined up in another city. And then the building owner who had the lease agreement with the potential cannabis operator died. The building passed to the heirs and they didn't want anything to do with it. They wanted other uses for the building so that they couldn't complete the process. We don't know what's going to happen. So we think it's a good idea to keep these candidates on an eligibility list so that they're all pre-qualified in case something goes wrong. Of course, they don't have to accept that. That would be another thing we address in the eligibility list criteria. So that's it.
And I think we want to come back with the timeline, right?
So bad about that.
Like the two that are there, I think we want to come back as having the eligibility list, but have a time frame for those that are already selected.
We haven't established.
Yeah, to come back with an established time frame.
Yes, I was going to do that at the meeting when we brought back the eligibility list. It's fair to bring that point up. There was too much to do to bring all that together for this particular meeting. I would add that the ordinance does already require that once the conditional use permit's been issued, the candidates will have 12 months to open up essentially. So that's already in there, but the ordinance also allows the council to approve additional regulations and the city administrator too, to approve additional regulations that weren't foreseen. And we are planning on bringing some regulations about the timeline, progress that has to be made or that they would risk losing their place. But that's for another meeting. Right now, we just want you to we need a motion to deny the applications of the 3 unsuccessful CCB permit applications, which applicants, as you know, were the Mr. Nice Guy, Urban Joy. These are their common names, not their full names, and the Roots Dispensary. And then just by consensus, authorize the staff to proceed with the establishment of an eligibility list, and we'll come back
with that criteria and some other regulations for consideration at a future date.
I know we received some correspondence, we have before us.
You have that, Amelia?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Okay, any comments from the public? Nobody out there, so. What's wish the council in denying the application of the 3 unsuccessful CCD permit candidates?
I will motion to deny the 3 permits and to establish the eligibility list.
Yeah.
not to deny the permits, just to deny the applications.
Deny the applications,
Candidates, yeah. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All ayes, thank you. Bill,
Is that and develop an eligibility list?
That was part of the motion, yes, and that's fine.
okay, item 17, future agenda items.
I have none.
Have none of it.
And I see the chief has the code compliance department for short-term rentals, so we're gonna get updates on this. So is this going out? I mean,
It's already out.
to here's your forms.
Yes, the package I gave you is what we're gonna be sending, sorry. Correct. The package I gave you is what we're gonna be sending to the 13 listed Airbnbs that we have in the city. And it's already on our website also. All those forms are on our website. So we looked at to get 30 days, so a couple weeks to get to there, and then for them to send it back. And then we will now start going by these addresses to make sure that they have compliance.
If I may, just with respect to the one property that caused problems Labor Day weekend, we are planning, I assume, to taking some kind of administrative action. Is that?
I guess we are now.
Well, I
No.
assumed that we were. I just wanted
Yeah.
to let you know that can be done. Even though that's something that I assumed was happening. We have another option. I haven't talked to the chief about it, but.
We have all their information and everything like that. And we did talk to them and we found out who the owner was, so. That kind of,
Yeah, we
Started
are
this whole
the
process.
owner, and I think you do now, so.
oh yeah.
Next time, kill the cars.
All right, any other additions to the upcoming agendas? Announcements, council activity reports.
I have one. So I don't know, we hadn't reported out, but on Saturday, August 13th, we had the eyesight
Yes,
from the Lions. And I just wanted to report out, we had 326 patients.
Wow.
39 needed no prescription, 45 were in the optical lab, 242 received recycled eyeglasses. And then a couple patients were treated for different things or basically referred for surgery.
so
Yeah, we had 2 that were referred for cataract surgery, so. There's just a lot of data here and 73 patients were 18 years and younger.
18 years ago,
That's a lot.
and that was at the
Saturday, August 13th, at Mary Beeren, and it
Okay.
happened from 8 AM to 3:30.
busy.
It was really busy. They said that the first couple hours they weren't, and the optometrist that was here said that it was very successful. They had one in San Diego and it wasn't as
At
successful.
San Diego.
Yeah, and it wasn't, and they're hoping to have this come back and
Yeah.
have it around our area, but they need obviously more lions.
Okay.
And optometrists that are willing to
Donate the time.
donate the
Yeah,
time,
okay.
because he's coming all the way from, I don't even know, somewhere
Okay.
south. And he has like just sheds.
What was that last number, the 73?
73 of the patients were 18 years and younger.
Do we even have it broken down as far as the River 18?
No, I wish they did, but no, they, yeah, they were just gave me data in terms of what were they were seen for. And so there's more. I mean, there's like dry macular degeneration, like all these other conditions that people were diagnosed with.
A lot of screen time.
Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Gilbert, anything? Gene?
This past Saturday, the Bulldogs had their first home games here. Fortunately, the fire department was very busy during one of the games. You know, and then if anybody's available tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at PV, the intermediates will have their game that they were supposed to have on Saturday. That was canceled or postponed till tomorrow.
Is it rain or something, or what was the
Nah,
reason?
from what I heard, sickness from the other team.
Oh, I see.
Got a lot of players sick and they didn't work, so they came up with
Morning.
together to reschedule the game for tomorrow night at 7 at Pioneer Valley. It's always good to see, you know, it's an excitement for the little guys to get to play under the lights like, you know, the varsity team gets to, so it's always their goal.
It's butterfly time. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I know that we're following up on the, some of the parking issues and things like that, but it's good to see all the folks there. Here's the. This for you, Amelia. There's a. Real quick, Calvans, I met last week with Calvans. It's an interesting program. There's 693 vans in the state of California. 593 are ag. We have in Guadalupe, we have 8 Calvan units. One of the problems that's coming up is that the CHP is requiring that these Calvan drivers have a P certification from DMV, which is pretty technical. And so we're working, Calvans is working that out to where right now a volunteer can volunteer to be a driver. And they don't need anything but a regular class license, class B, class C,
Class C.
class C. And now the CHP is saying that you need a class P, which it's really tough on some of these folks that have to do that, because you got like 30 hours of testing and all this other stuff that a lot of the individuals can't do. The way Calvans works is somebody says, I volunteer, I'll drive a Calvan, I'll get a gas card, gas card, not cash card, a gas card. And then they charge people coming for a ride, and it's their charge. Calvans charges whoever has a van 100 and I think I have it in here. They charge them. I don't mean I have it here. They're going to charge $1.45 a mile to that driver, and all of them have GPSs. Every one of these have GPSs. So they collect money from the individuals that are going to work. And then they report that money, and they put that money into Calvan. So anyway, there's a lot of details to that. There's in Santa Barbara County, there's a total of 116 units. Calvan units with, and it was interesting to see that there was 8 in Guadalupe. Another thing, law enforcement recognition night last Wednesday. Omar Ruiz was recognized by the police department. You probably had 10 city staff there. Including Todd. So that was good. Fiesta
Good food.
Patrias, Lily and I attended, and so did Gilbert and other folks. I didn't see. We spoke a little bit. There's a good turnout. And I appreciate Lily, because I write things down that I should say. She translates that, but sometimes I forget what to say, and then she brings it up. So that was cool. It was a good event. APCD Air Pollution Control and SPCAG meeting this September 15th, Thursday. Another special meeting. APCD wants to meet again 9/19. We have a meeting Thursday,
Um,
9:15.
yeah.
Thursday, with the school district.
It's
to
at
discuss the
2:50.
joint powers of agreement, so there, so that's what's happening. You know, you gotta, you won't, you're gone. Where are you going? Oh, are you?
Thursday,
All right, how long are you gonna be gone?
I'll be back Sunday.
Okay.
Be on
Bring me a
Zoom.
piñata.
Yeah. Put you on
There's nothing
Zoom.
in it.
So-
Okay,
so this
let's
has to be
see.
left- This has to be left open for.
Now,
but
adjourn
nobody
to
else
closed
can
session, the motion to adjourn to closed session.
Oh,
Okay, Lily, a motion,
Second.
you
So
second
just
it.
don't allow any